Long before written history could explain the world, ancient civilizations raised structures that still defy modern understanding. Massive stones were cut, transported, and assembled with astonishing precision, often without iron tools, wheels, or written blueprints. Temples aligned with the movements of the sun and stars. Cities were planned with mathematical accuracy that suggests knowledge far beyond what their era should have allowed. Even today, archaeologists can describe what was built, but struggle to explain how and why it was done this way. Were these monuments purely religious, or did they serve purposes now forgotten? Did their builders inherit lost knowledge, or discover principles that modern science only later rediscovered? Across deserts, jungles, and mountains, ancient architecture stands in silence, challenging our assumptions about the past, and reminding us that human history may be far more complex than we ever imagined. High in the remote Andes of Peru, far from the grandeur of Machu Picchu or the mysteries of Nazca, lies a massive carved stone that defies explanation. Known as the Sayhuite monolith, this granite slab is unlike anything else in South America. A surface etched with over 200 miniature structures, canals, basins, stairways, and animal-like figures, all arranged with uncanny precision. It's not a city, it's not a temple, it's not a tomb, and yet it might be the most complex and unreadable artifact in the entire Andes. No inscriptions, no builders, no explanation. Just one silent question, carved into stone. Who made this, and for what purpose? What do you think Sayhuite really was? A sacred tool, a lost invention, or something else entirely? Drop your theory in the comments below. We'd love to hear your take on this ancient mystery. This uncertainty is precisely what makes Sayhuite so mystifying. Despite being surrounded by Incan ruins and other archaeological markers, this monolith doesn't comfortably fit into any known cultural or functional box. There are no written records about it, no historical texts, and no artifacts that clearly link it to any specific civilization. Even the Inca, the dominant power in the region when the Spanish arrived, seemed to have inherited it rather than created it. So who were the true architects behind this enigmatic stone? The Sayhuite monolith impresses not only because of its ancient age, but also because of the astonishing precision in its carvings. Hewn from a single block of granite, weighing about 2 tons, its nearly 4-meter-long surface forms a miniature labyrinth of hundreds of intricate features. Small winding channels connect to reservoirs, staircases, and stone platforms, all carefully arranged to resemble a scaled-down landscape. Most striking are the animal-shaped carvings, frogs, snakes, and wild cats, seamlessly integrated into the layout, suggesting a purpose far beyond mere decoration. Every detail gives the impression of a miniature blueprint, perhaps a prototype for a much larger system, though no one knows exactly what it was. This singularity makes the Sayhuite monolith unlike any other artifact ever discovered in the Andes. Some researchers believe that the Sayhuite monolith may have been used as a miniature hydraulic model designed to simulate how water flows through irrigation systems or ceremonial structures. The arrangement of channels, basins, and stair-like features carved into its surface closely resembles ancient terraces and waterworks found throughout the Andes. However, the strange part is, there's no solid evidence that the stone was ever used with real water. The channels don't connect to any nearby water source, and there's no sign of erosion from water flow. This raises the theory that if the stone had a technical purpose, it was likely symbolic rather than practical. It may have been an idealized blueprint or even a teaching tool, but never used functionally. This brings us back to the biggest mystery of all: the identity and intent of its creators. The monolith was discovered in the region of Abancay on a plateau far removed from Peru's better-known archaeological centers. And while it was found near structures commonly attributed to the Inca, the monolith's style and function stand apart. There are no other stones like it in the Andes, no matching artifacts, no inscriptions, no surrounding temples dedicated to water gods or engineering. In essence, Sayhuite is an orphan artifact, brilliant, baffling, and disconnected from everything around it. One compelling theory suggests that the Sayhuite monolith is a remnant from a pre-Inca civilization, a culture that may have possessed advanced knowledge of water management and hydraulic modeling. According to this hypothesis, the Inca merely inherited or repurposed the monolith, possibly for ceremonial or educational use, but did not fully understand its original meaning. This idea isn't far-fetched, as the Inca are known to have built upon older structures such as at Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo, where they integrated remnants of earlier cultures into their own architecture. If true, it implies that Sayhuite is more than just a strange artifact. It may be a key to a forgotten body of knowledge that existed long before the Inca Empire. But Sayhuite's uniqueness resists easy classification. Unlike other sites with multiple artifacts or layers of cultural influence, Sayhuite stands alone. It isn't part of a city, it's not inside a temple complex, and there's no known builder's signature, architectural or artistic, that links it to other ancient peoples. This has led some researchers to more speculative territory. Could it have been the work of a lost civilization? A culture that mastered hydraulic principles and vanished before written history took root in the Andes? Some scholars approach the Sayhuite monolith from a spiritual and ritualistic perspective rather than a purely technical one. According to this view, the stone was not a tool for simulating water flow, but rather a sacred symbol, a holy landscape carved for use in rain-invoking ceremonies, fertility rituals, or the teaching of ancient cosmological knowledge. One notable detail is the large number of frog carvings, an animal often associated with water rain and deities in Andean mythology, suggesting strong spiritual significance. If this theory is correct, the winding channels across the stone's surface may not represent real rivers, but instead mythical waterways or spiritual journeys within an ancient worldview. Another theory suggests that the Sayhuite monolith once served as a teaching model used by ancient priests or engineers to convey knowledge about hydraulic principles. It was imagined as a kind of pre-Columbian classroom in stone, where instructors could pour water and demonstrate flow scenarios, allowing students to observe how water would move through the miniature channels, basins, and terraces. However, the core issue remains: there is no accompanying physical evidence. No inscriptions, no writings, no trace that it was ever part of an educational setting. All that remains is a complex granite stone and utter silence. Another possibility is that the Sayhuite monolith was never completed, or perhaps was never intended for any practical use at all. It may have been the work of an ancient artistic genius, a stone map depicting an imagined world, or a cosmogram representing how ancient people perceived the universe and its sacred order. This interpretation leans heavily into symbolic anthropology and is often compared to other unreadable artifacts like the Voynich manuscript or the Antikythera mechanism, mysterious masterpieces that even today's top scholars have yet to fully decode. What's also striking is that part of the monolith appears to have been damaged intentionally. Some of its carvings are chipped or fractured, not by time, but seemingly by human force. Was this destruction an act of iconoclasm by a conquering people? A ritual killing of the stone when it no longer served its purpose, or simply the wear of centuries? Again, we don't know, and we may never know. Modern technology is beginning to offer new tools for understanding Sayhuite. 3D scanning, fluid simulation software, and archaeological modeling have all been employed to analyze the structure and layout. But even with these digital reconstructions, one question remains unanswered. Why? Why would someone invest so much time, skill, and labor into a monolith that has no apparent practical use, no inscription, and no clear cultural context. The absence of context, of culture, of function of voice is what makes Sayhuite so haunting. It's not just an ancient riddle carved in stone. It's a whisper from a people we may never truly know. The kind of relic that forces us to admit that for all our tools, satellites, and scanning technology, there are still stories buried in the earth that remain just out of reach. In a world where we often think science has explained everything, the Sayhuite monolith reminds us that mystery endures. And perhaps that's its greatest gift, a carved silence that asks us to keep asking, keep wondering, and never assume we already know the full story of our past. Amidst the misty highlands of eastern Bolivia's Andes, where the boundary between the Amazon rainforest and Rocky Mountains begins to blur, lies one of South America's most enigmatic and bizarre archaeological sites, Fuerte de Samaipata, also simply known as El Fuerte. With the appearance of a massive sandstone monolith, intricately carved, this site is unlike any other ruin discovered across the Americas. It lacks towering walls or majestic temples like Machu Picchu, yet El Fuerte confounds archaeologists and historians precisely because of its strange simplicity, a giant inscription sprawling across the rock surface featuring unfamiliar shapes, deep grooves, and unidentified symbols as if left behind by a civilization that has completely vanished from human memory. Do you believe El Fuerte was built by a civilization that we've never known? Share your thoughts in the comments below. One of the greatest mysteries, and the aspect that draws the most attention from researchers, is the question, who built this structure? The challenge lies not only in its age or technique, but also in the blending and inconsistency of its design. There is no definitive answer, only overlapping hypotheses and a strange presence of elements drawn from multiple cultures. Many scholars believe that the Chain people, an indigenous group who lived before the rise of the Inca, may have been the first to begin carving the massive rock at Samaipata. They had no writing system, but were known for their solid settlements, advanced agricultural practices, and especially for ritual traditions associated with sacred symbols like snakes, eagles, and big cats. Interestingly, these very motifs appear prominently on the surface of El Fuerte. However, there is no record in Chain culture of large-scale monolithic stone carving. The deep, straight, and evenly spaced grooves with strange layouts seen here seem to go far beyond their known capabilities. As a result, more and more researchers suspect that the Chain were not the original builders, but rather inheritors of an ancient structure that had existed long before their time. As the Inca Empire expanded eastward, they reached the Samaipata region and quickly took control of the site. Several secondary architectural remnants surrounding the central rock, including residential areas, plazas, and stone walls, strongly reflect typical Inca design, tightly fitted stone blocks assembled without mortar, so precisely aligned that even a blade cannot slip between them. This suggests the Inca modified or reused the area as a strategic outpost or ceremonial center. However, the real point of controversy lies in the carved sandstone monolith, the sacred and central feature which bears no architectural hallmark of the Inca. The deep grooves, long straight cuts, stretching dozens of meters, and bizarre carvings are unlike anything found in other known Inca sites. The Inca were famous for building grand temples aligned with celestial paths, full of symbolic clarity, yet here they appear to have been mere successors, inheriting and repurposing a structure that had already existed long before their arrival, much like what they did with sites such as Sacsayhuaman or Ollantaytambo. Some modern researchers have proposed a bolder theory. El Fuerte may be the product of a civilization even older than the Chain or the Inca, a civilization never recorded in history or one that has been completely erased from human memory. This theory arises from features that defy conventional archaeological thinking grooves, carved with remarkable mechanical precision, deep, long, and flawlessly consistent, and strange symbols that don't match any known symbolic system. Most striking of all is the overall impression that the site doesn't belong here, as if it were misplaced in both time and space. Some of the long channels resemble conduits for water or liquid, leading many to speculate that this was not just a place of ritual, but may have once functioned as a ceremonial machine, or even an ancient astronomical device designed to interact with natural phenomena in ways we still don't fully understand. What makes El Fuerte even more mysterious is that there are no writings records or supporting artifacts that could identify who built it. The carved stone stands isolated on the high plain with no accompanying temples, tombs, or inscriptions bearing names. What remains are only strange carvings with unclear meanings, as if time and nature had deliberately erased all evidence. For this reason, many scholars refer to the site as a monument of oblivion, a structure that history has quietly turned its back on, leaving behind an unanswered question: who created it, and for what purpose? When the Spanish arrived in the region in the 16th century, they saw a large rock formation atop a hill and quickly gave it the name El Fuerte, meaning the fortress. With a military mindset, they assumed it had once served as a defensive stronghold. However, there is no evidence that the site ever featured walls, watchtowers, or any kind of military structure. That name, still used today, actually stems from a completely mistaken interpretation of the site's true nature, and this misunderstanding has endured for centuries. Some independent researchers and proponents of the ancient astronaut theory have gone even further, suggesting that El Fuerte may have been built by a civilization not of this earth. Their argument is based on the presence of deep, precise, perfectly straight cuts, which show no signs of traditional chiseling or impact tools. According to them, only some form of advanced technology such as acoustic energy, extreme heat, or an unknown force not yet recognized by modern science could have produced such flawless detailing. While this theory faces strong criticism from mainstream academia, it continues to capture widespread public and media attention because it taps into a deep human fascination with a forgotten past that may lie beyond our current understanding. To this day, the site has not been fully excavated. Around 80% of the area surrounding the rock remains unstudied, and ancient sediment layers may still be hiding underground chambers, tunnels, or valuable artifacts. Archaeological work is limited due to strict UNESCO preservation rules, and most studies have only used surface imaging, laser scanning, and ground-penetrating radar. As we wait for new technologies and official permissions, El Fuerte still stands proudly on the Bolivian highlands, both a heritage of humanity and a challenge from time itself. The question of who built it still hovers among theories unsolved. It forces us to wonder how many civilizations once lived and vanished without leaving their names behind. How many truths of history are still buried beneath stone and time? Perhaps El Fuerte de Samaipata is not just an ancient structure, but rather a symbol of silence in history where the past has chosen to keep its secrets hidden. Off the misty coast of Brittany, France, lies a quiet island barely visible on most maps, Gavrinis. At first glance, it's nothing more than a rocky patch in the sea, windblown and forgotten. But beneath its silence hides a riddle that has baffled scientists and archaeologists for decades. How did prehistoric humans, with no metal, no wheels, and no written language, construct one of the most precise and sophisticated stone monuments in Europe over 6,000 years ago? Inside this island lies a tomb unlike any other, engraved with symbols no one can read, built with engineering no one can fully explain. If Stonehenge raises questions, Gavrinis is a challenge, a whisper from deep time, daring us to rethink everything we thought we knew about the Stone Age. Could ancient people have known something we've forgotten? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Inside the Gavrinis tomb lies a corridor about 14 meters long, leading to the central chamber, a design known as a passage grave, common in the Neolithic era. On both sides of this corridor stand 29 massive upright stones, each around 2 to 3 meters tall and weighing several tons. What's truly astonishing is how perfectly these stones fit together with no visible gaps, even though no mortar or binding materials were used. Large horizontal slabs were placed across the top, forming a sturdy structure like a stone tunnel through time. After thousands of years of rain-sea winds and erosion, the monument remains remarkably intact. The physical structure of Gavrinis alone is a powerful testament to the ancient builders' understanding of load-bearing organization and precision far beyond what we usually attribute to people we assume were just hunters and gatherers. This has led many researchers to ask a deeper question. Have we underestimated the true capabilities of Stone Age civilizations? One of the biggest questions surrounding Gavrinis is how did ancient people manage to transport multi-ton stones all the way to the island? At that time, they had no wheels, no draft animals, no pulleys or mechanical tools, only human strength, a few crude wooden implements, and unwavering determination. Gavrinis is not connected to the mainland, so one common theory is that they took advantage of lower sea levels during glacial periods or used natural land bridges to move the stones across. But the idea of moving such massive stones over long distances and then erecting them with precision without the aid of machinery still stretches the limits of what seems possible. Some researchers suggest they may have used wooden rollers, plant fiber rope scaffolding, or clever applications of leverage to lift the stones. However, no theory fully explains the accuracy and technical scale of the monument. One of the most astonishing aspects of Gavrinis is the stone carving skill of Neolithic people. The upright slabs lining the passage are covered in intricate abstract geometric patterns, spirals, arcs, fingerprints, axes, and repeating wave-like motifs. There are hundreds of individual carvings, and what's truly remarkable is that they were all deeply engraved into granite, a rock known for its extreme hardness and difficulty to work with, even using modern tools. At the time Gavrinis was built, metal tools did not yet exist, meaning the artisans had to rely on harder stones like quartzite or flint to carve by hand. Creating such deep, consistent and fluid lines on granite surfaces required not only advanced technique, but also years of continuous manual labor, extraordinary patience, and near-perfect precision. This single element alone has led archaeologists to question, have we truly understood the artistic and technical capabilities of prehistoric humans? Some of the slabs in Gavrinis are not merely engraved on flat surfaces, they display a form of near three-dimensional sculpting with deeply recessed carvings that create raised motifs like spirals or flowing wave patterns. These resemble early experiments in spatial geometry. Far from being simple decorations, many researchers believe these carvings carry symbolic meanings related to religion or cosmology, or perhaps represent an ancient coded system that remains undeciphered. One theory suggests they may have served as a visual memory system, allowing ancient people to preserve knowledge and rituals across generations, at a time when writing had not yet been invented. If true, these stone slabs are not just construction materials, but primitive stone pages of a forgotten book. One of the most astonishing discoveries at Gavrinis is the intentional connection between megalithic sites in the region. Researchers have confirmed that many of the stones in Gavrinis were not newly carved on site, but rather reused from other ancient monuments, possibly from earlier tombs that had collapsed or been dismantled. Even more remarkably, one stone in Gavrinis fits perfectly with a matching fragment in the Table des Marchands tomb, located about 4 kilometers away. This is not a coincidence. It suggests a high level of planning and architectural coordination, as if these megalithic structures were built as part of a sacred stone network, where ritual sites were connected by shared symbolism, cosmology, or astronomical alignment. This implies that prehistoric people were not only skilled in stone reuse, but also possessed the ability for long-term planning, spatial reasoning, and collective organization in stark contrast to the primitive and scattered image often assigned to the Stone Age. Gavrinis is not just an ancient architectural structure, it may in fact be a time machine powered by sunlight. Researchers have discovered that the tomb's main passageway is precisely aligned with the position of the sunrise on the winter solstice, a sacred moment in many ancient cultures. On that particular morning, a beam of sunlight travels through the corridor and illuminates the inner burial chamber, creating an effect that feels like a pre-programmed ritual of light. This reveals that the builders of Gavrinis were not only skilled in construction and coordination, but also possessed profound knowledge of solar movement time cycles and astronomical phenomena. They had observed the skies for long periods, memorized natural cycles, and carried out remarkably accurate measurements without any modern instruments. It is a powerful testament to the prehistoric mastery of celestial knowledge. There were no architectural drawings, no simulation software, no measuring devices, only natural observation, oral tradition, and skilled craftsmanship. Yet the result is a monument that is structurally sound, artistically refined, and astronomically precise, a level of mastery that continues to awe modern engineers. Despite its ancient age and technical brilliance, Gavrinis remains relatively unknown. Perhaps it's the island's small scale, or the absence of towering statues, or instantly recognizable forms like Egypt's pyramids or England's Stonehenge. Yet for those who step inside its stone corridor, the prevailing feeling is one of awe, silence, and wonder, as if crossing into another dimension where the knowledge, rituals, and memories of prehistory are stored in stone. In the end, Gavrinis is far more than just a tomb. It is a living testament to a truth that may challenge our assumptions that Neolithic humans were far more intelligent, skilled, and organized than we often believe. What they achieved with bare hands, transporting stones, engraving them, aligning them to the stars, is a technical triumph that even the modern world might struggle to replicate without advanced tools. At first glance, it looks unassuming, a boat-shaped pile of stones resting quietly in the fields of Minorca. No towering columns, no elaborate carvings, just ancient rock weathered by time. And yet this silent structure has whispered a challenge to every archaeologist who's dared to study it. How was this built over 3,000 years ago, with no mortar, no metal tools, and no written plans? Naveta des Tudons isn't just a prehistoric tomb. It's a technical riddle, carved in stone, a dry stone vault, so precisely constructed it defies everything we thought we knew about Bronze Age engineering. Who built it? And why does no one remember them? This is the mystery that still stands immovable, unanswered, and more relevant than ever. What do you think was this ancient structure, the result of forgotten genius or something we still can't explain? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Around 1200 years before Christ, during the Bronze Age, the Sayhuite people built Naveta des Tudons as a collective tomb, but in a way that far surpasses what we usually imagine about prehistoric construction. The Sayhuite culture once thrived across the Balearic Islands, yet today it has all but vanished, leaving behind few traces beyond strange stone structures like the Naveta. What makes this monument so extraordinary is not just its age, over 3,000 years, or its funerary purpose, but rather its astonishing precision in construction. Without metal, without wheels, without pulleys, they managed to create a dry stone structure that has remained stable for millennia. Many modern researchers still cannot fully explain how people of that era, armed only with primitive tools, could design and build something so close to perfection. Did they possess a kind of knowledge that has now been lost to time? When observing Naveta des Tudons, one might easily be deceived by its seemingly simple appearance. Yet behind those weathered ancient stones lies a structure built with techniques far ahead of its time. Measuring over 13 meters in length and nearly 5 meters in height, the entire monument was assembled from massive stone blocks tightly fitted together without the use of any mortar or cement. The stones were carved with remarkable precision, with many joints so tight that only a thin sheet of paper could pass through. Each block has a unique shape, as if it had been custom designed for its exact place, forming a harmonious whole, like a colossal three-dimensional puzzle. Most impressively, the arched roof was constructed entirely through pressure between the stones, a method so complex that even modern engineers find it astonishing. One of the most astonishing features of Naveta des Tudons is its curved, vaulted roof built entirely without any central supporting pillars. The structure consists of 2 levels. The lower level was used to hold human remains, while the upper level likely served ritual purposes related to death. What truly amazes researchers is the roofing technique itself. Massive stones were laid at slight angles and tightly pressed together, following the principle of pressure distribution, forming an exceptionally stable, self-supporting arch. This method would only become widespread centuries later in Greek and Roman architecture, yet the Talaiolic people had already mastered it thousands of years earlier, long before formal knowledge of structural geometry existed. This was not just an architectural achievement. It revealed a spatial awareness, an understanding of gravity, far beyond what modern science would expect from a prehistoric society. Another remarkable feature that makes Naveta des Tudons truly unique is its overall shape, smoothly curved and tapering at both ends, resembling a giant overturned boat. This design may have held spiritual symbolism, perhaps representing the soul's journey to the afterlife. But from an engineering perspective, it is an astonishing feat. Recreating such a boat-like form, using dry stone with no binding material, no internal framework, poses a tremendous challenge even for modern engineers. A single miscalculation or misplaced stone could throw off the center of gravity, causing the entire arch to collapse or fail under its own weight. Yet the Talaiolic people accomplished it, proving they possessed an extraordinary level of precision measurement and spatial awareness that seems almost unbelievable for a prehistoric society. One of the biggest questions surrounding Naveta des Tudons is how did ancient people build it? There are no written records, no architectural plans, and not a single tool has been found. Everything we know comes from the fully completed structure still standing in the middle of nature. How could they have transported stone blocks, weighing hundreds of kilograms across rugged terrain without carts, pulleys, or even draft animals for support? And once on site, how did they place each stone in its exact position with such flawless precision? Many modern research teams have attempted to replicate the construction of the Naveta using primitive tools, but most failed or required enormous amounts of time and manpower. Even with modern machines, assembling a dry stone vaulted roof with perfect alignment remains a highly complex challenge. This leaves scientists wondering, did the Talaiolic people possess a form of knowledge that we've long since lost? Furthermore, the Talaiolic culture left behind no written language, no inscriptions. They came and went like a passing breeze, leaving behind stone monuments that astound yet offer no explanation. This amplifies the mystery of their technical abilities, as if their knowledge did not evolve gradually, but rather appeared suddenly. Some have proposed bizarre theories that they were guided by beings from another world, or that their knowledge was inherited from a lost Mediterranean Atlantis yet to be discovered. While these theories lack firm evidence, they reflect how difficult it is for modern science to explain something that seems impossible. The perfection of Naveta des Tudons' design has led scholars to call it the most complete example of prehistoric dry stone architecture surviving in Europe. It is not just a tomb, but a work of art, a spiritual symbol, and a silent declaration of ancient intelligence. Every single stone was selected, carved, and placed in its exact position. Nothing extra, nothing missing, as though an invisible hand had drawn up the blueprint in the minds of the Talaiotic builders. The question remains, if they could construct Naveta des Tudons with such sophistication, how many other structures have been buried by time? And how many ancient secrets about construction remain undiscovered? When we gaze upon the Naveta, we are not merely looking at a pile of stones, we are confronting a challenge that whispers, even with all our modern technology, we may not fully comprehend the methods of our ancestors. And within those tightly stacked stones may lie the clues to a missing chapter in the story of human architecture. In southern India, within the ancient ruins of Hampi, the former capital of the Vijayanagara Empire, stands a structure that has amazed the world, Vitala Temple, a temple famed not only for its intricate carvings, but also for a highly unusual acoustic phenomenon, the singing stone pillars. Known as the musical pillars, these are not just decorative or load-bearing elements. When gently tapped, the stone columns produce tones like lithophones bells, or even notes resembling the classical Indian sargam scale. This phenomenon has not only fascinated visitors, but also baffled modern scientists. What are your thoughts on the unsolved mystery of Vitala Temple's musical pillars? Could this be a lost science, or merely an uncanny coincidence? Share your thoughts in the comments below. There are a total of 56 main pillars in the Mandapa pillared hall, and remarkably, each one is surrounded by smaller sub-pillars. These sub-pillars, when struck, produce different frequencies, forming a basic scale, like a true musical instrument. However, what puzzles engineers and scientists today is this: how can these solid granite columns made from an extremely dense and heavy material emit different tones? The acoustic mechanism remains entirely unclear. This is the temple's greatest mystery, where wonder turns into deep skepticism. Granite is not typically considered an ideal material for producing sound, especially not clear, varied, and musical tones. Most traditional instruments rely on vibrating strings, hollow chambers, membranes, or a combination of materials to create acoustic resonance. Yet the stone pillars at Vitala Temple show absolutely no signs of any such mechanisms. Numerous modern investigations using X-rays and ultrasound have been conducted, all revealing a surprising result: no hollow cavities, air pockets, or artificial structures inside. Each pillar is a single solid block of granite with no metal wires, no air channels, no hollow core, just meticulously carved stone. And yet when touched, they sing. The most baffling aspect that modern scientists still cannot explain is this question: did ancient people possess acoustic knowledge that we've either lost over time or never recorded at all? How could they have calculated the precise resonance frequency of each sub-pillar without formal knowledge of acoustic physics or any instruments to measure vibration? Modern research teams have attempted to recreate these stone columns using identical materials and dimensions, yet the results always fall short. The sound produced never matches the original, and in many cases, the pillars remain completely silent if there's even a slight error in length cut, angle, or height ratio. This extreme sensitivity suggests that the stone carving techniques of the ancients reached an extraordinary level of precision, far beyond what should have been possible with the measuring tools of their era. It also leads to a bold hypothesis. Perhaps they possessed methods of observing or perceiving frequency that we today cannot even imagine. Many scientific theories have been proposed to explain the mysterious acoustic phenomenon at the Vitala Temple. One of the most common suggests that the ratio between the length, diameter, and density of the granite pillars was precisely calculated to produce natural resonance, similar to how ancient lithophones in Vietnam or stone bells in traditional Chinese culture operate. However, a key difference lies in the structure. Those ancient stone instruments were usually separate slabs detached from surrounding architecture and could be struck by hand or with mallets. In contrast, the resonant pillars at Vitala are fully integrated into the temple's load-bearing structure, serving both as roof supports and as sound-producing elements. This makes the design and construction far more complex, since even a slight miscalculation could cause the entire system to lose its resonant qualities. And to this day, no modern replication model has been able to perfectly recreate this effect. Some scholars suggest that environmental factors, such as humidity, temperature, or microscopic air pockets within the granite, may contribute to the pillar's ability to produce sound. This explanation leans on natural physics, proposing that material changes caused by weather conditions unintentionally created acoustic resonance. However, if this theory were accurate, the sounds emitted by the stone pillars should vary with seasonal or climate changes. Yet in reality, for centuries, despite environmental fluctuations, the pillars have consistently produced clear and steady tones. This strongly suggests that environmental factors alone cannot fully explain this mysterious phenomenon. Some architectural engineers believe that the secret lies in the precise distribution of force and the spacing between the sub-pillars surrounding the main column. They compare these sub-pillars to stone tuning forks, with each small branch resonating at a different frequency, forming a diverse acoustic system. However, achieving this would require a deep understanding of acoustic physics and highly accurate measurement tools. In the 15th century, when the Vitala temple was constructed, there is no evidence to suggest that such technical capabilities existed. Therefore, while this theory makes sense from a mechanical perspective, it raises an even bigger question: how did ancient builders achieve such near-perfect precision? Perhaps the most astonishing aspect is that no written manuals, notes, or blueprints have been found describing how the sound-producing pillars were created. There are no diagrams, no acoustic symbols, no explanations of harmonic design. All that remains are stone columns, silent in appearance but ready to sing when lightly touched. The absence of any documentation deepens the mystery, as if the ancient builders intended this to be an unsolvable riddle for future generations. One of the most puzzling unanswered questions is, what was the true purpose of these sound-producing stone pillars? Were they merely unique decorative elements, or did they serve an actual spiritual or ceremonial function? Some theories suggest that the pillars' sounds may have been used in sacred rituals, creating a vibrational space conducive to prayer, meditation, or offerings. A bolder hypothesis proposes that they may have once played a role in an ancient vibrational language, transmitting information through sound frequencies, a coded system now lost to time. Others speculate that these unique sounds may have had therapeutic effects or the power to trigger altered states of consciousness, much like sound meditation practices in ancient Indian spiritual traditions. However, all of these theories remain scientifically unverified. Today, visitors are no longer allowed to strike the musical pillars. Conservationists have banned direct contact to prevent further damage. Modern studies rely on vibration sensors and non-invasive methods to explore the pillars' properties. This restriction only adds to the mystique of the singing stones, turning them into relics that cannot be repeated or fully studied. Yet their legend continues to inspire explorers and dreamers, reminding us that modern technology doesn't always hold all the answers to the past. Have we underestimated ancient civilizations? Was there once a vast understanding of resonance, acoustics, structural harmony that has since vanished? And could it be that within the silence of these stone monoliths echoes the whisper of a knowledge far beyond its time? Before Columbus ever dreamed of crossing the Atlantic, before maps dared to sketch the unknown edges of the world, there was this place. At the windswept tip of Newfoundland, hidden beneath layers of moss and thyme, lies a settlement that rewrites history, Meadows. It's not a grand fortress, not a battlefield echoing with swords. It's quieter than that. Stranger, as if someone came from across the sea, built homes, forged iron, lived, then vanished. No war, no fire, just silence. This isn't just an archaeological site. It's a riddle carved into the northern soil, a whisper from a Viking past that dares us to ask, what were they searching for? And why did they leave so soon? What do you think happened at Meadows? Drop your theory in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. In the year 1960, Norwegian explorers Helge and Anne Stein Ingstad discovered ruins at Meadows, including remnants of 8 turf-roofed buildings, a primitive iron forge, metal tools, and artifacts that did not belong to any known Native American culture. These findings shocked the archaeological world as they provided the first verified archaeological evidence that Vikings had reached the New World around the year 1000 AD, nearly 5 centuries before Columbus. This was no longer legend or myth. It was tangible history unearthed from the soil, from details in the Norse sagas, especially the saga of the Greenlanders, and the saga of Eric, the Red Meadows, is believed to be the first site in the journey to explore Vinland, led by Leif Erikson, son of Eric the Red. The sagas describe a fertile land with mild climate, wild grapes, and abundant fish, a place where Vikings believed they could establish a new community. But if this was the promised land, why did they stay only a decade and then suddenly disappear? Why would a group that built homes, practiced metalworking, and set up workshops abandon everything without signs of destruction or bloodshed? Archaeological findings indicate that the Viking presence at Meadows was remarkably brief, lasting perhaps only about a decade, between the years 1000 and 1010 AD. And yet, in that short window, they built solid Nordic-style dwellings with moss-covered roofs, timber frames, and stone reinforcements, all carefully designed to withstand the cold and harsh northern climate. The discovery of a simple iron forge is especially revealing. It proves they weren't just passing through, they were crafting tools on site, preparing for a long-term stay. Alongside this are everyday remnants, fish bones, eggshell fragments, and animal remains that suggest families lived, cooked, and survived here. But what makes this site so haunting is what's missing. There are no signs of violence, fire, or destruction. No rushed burial sites, no collapsed structures. Just silence. It's as though the entire settlement simply stood up one day and left calmly, deliberately, and forever. This sudden, orderly abandonment is at the heart of the mystery. Why would a group that worked so hard to build a foothold in a new world decide to walk away without a trace? One of the most widely discussed theories explaining the Vikings' withdrawal is conflict with indigenous peoples, possibly the ancestors of the Beothuk. Norse sagas contain numerous descriptions of tense encounters, some ending in bloody violence. Several scholars believe that these clashes led the Vikings to conclude the land was too dangerous to establish a stable settlement. However, the key issue lies in the fact that no direct archaeological evidence confirms that such conflicts ever took place. There are no damaged weapons, no human remains, and no ruins indicative of any battles at the Meadows site. Another theory, supported by many researchers, is that harsh climate conditions and logistical difficulties forced the Vikings to abandon the site. Although they were used to living in cold environments like Iceland or Greenland, the climate in Newfoundland still presented unexpected challenges: long winters, colder than expected temperatures, and most importantly, a lack of the resources they had hoped for. In the Norse sagas, Vinland is described as a fertile land with wild-growing grapes, but modern-day Newfoundland has no grapes at all. This has led many scholars to believe that the true Vinland was located farther south, and that Meadows was merely an experimental outpost, not the final destination. A compelling theory suggests that Meadows was actually a colonial experiment. The Vikings may have deliberately sent an advance group to build, explore, and assess the viability of the land before deciding whether to establish a larger permanent settlement. This model mirrors many other historical expeditions where scout teams were sent ahead to test the waters. If this theory holds true, then Lanso Meadows was not a failure, but rather a planned reconnaissance mission later abandoned in favor of safer and more promising areas like Greenland or Iceland. Another lesser-mentioned but entirely plausible theory is the possibility of manpower decline and internal collapse. The Viking community at Lanso Meadows is estimated to have consisted of only 30 to 160 people, a number far too small to ensure long-term stability. Just a few deaths from illness accidents or serious internal conflicts could have been enough to cause the fragile social structure to fall apart. In a context where rapid communication did not exist, requesting reinforcements from Greenland or Scandinavia would have been nearly impossible within a short time frame, ultimately forcing them to abandon the settlement. A speculative yet intriguing theory suggests that the Vikings may have felt this land did not belong to them in a spiritual or symbolic sense. Perhaps they encountered strange natural phenomena, a sense of unease, or simply found that this place did not match the expectations of Vinland as described in the sagas. Some passages in those sagas use metaphorical and symbolic language hinting at experiences that were difficult to explain. If that feeling was real, then the decision to never return to Lanso Meadows may not have been strategic, but rather born from a deep intuition that this was not a land meant for them. To this day, no single explanation has enough supporting evidence to be universally accepted. Thus, Lanso Meadows remains a vivid symbol of the mysteries left unsolved in human history, a site where a civilization once crossed the ocean, staked a claim, and then vanished quietly, leaving only faded traces in the ground. Today, the site is recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site and attracts thousands of researchers and tourists annually. But even with ground-penetrating radar satellite imagery and modern modeling, the greatest question remains unanswered. Why did the Vikings come? And why did they leave? Hidden deep within the dense forests of northern Cambodia, Koh Ker was once a dazzling yet short-lived capital of the Khmer Empire during the 10th century. Unlike the grandeur of Angkor Wat or the majestic style of Bayon Koh Ker, presents a strange symphony of architecture, religion, power, and unresolved mysteries. In less than 2 decades of rule, this place gave rise to structures that astonished archaeologists, especially with construction techniques that seemed far beyond their time, as if they originated from a previously unknown civilization. What do you think about the mysterious construction techniques at Koh Ker? Could ancient people have possessed technologies we've yet to rediscover? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Koh Ker became the capital of the Khmer Empire from the year 928 to 944 under the reign of King Jayavarman IV. During that brief period, the king commissioned the construction of dozens of temples, religious structures, and divine statues, creating a center of power, culture, and spirituality completely separate from Angkor. Strangely, only after his successor, Rajendravarman II, took the throne, the capital was moved back to Angkor, and Koh Ker quickly faded into oblivion. What caused such a magnificent capital to be abandoned after just a single generation? The focal point of the site is Prasat Tom, a stepped pyramid structure consisting of 7 levels, standing nearly 36 meters tall, built with massive sandstone and laterite blocks. This is the only pyramid-style structure in Cambodia, completely different from the symmetrical east-west aligned temples of traditional Angkor design. The question remains, why would a Khmer king choose such a foreign architectural style for his capital. Some argue it was influenced by Indian civilization, while others suggest mysterious links to the pyramids of the Americas. Regardless of the theory, the emergence of this structure remains a massive question mark in the architectural history of Southeast Asia. One of Koh Ker's most astonishing features was a statue of the god Shiva, standing nearly 4 meters tall, carved from a single stone block. Many scholars believe it was once the largest Shiva statue in ancient Southeast Asia. Sadly, much of the statue no longer exists, partly due to the passage of time, partly due to looting, and possibly even intentional destruction. The question of who was behind the disappearance and why has never been satisfactorily answered. One of the most puzzling mysteries at Koh Ker lies in the advanced construction techniques used for its monumental structures. When archaeologists examined the walls, foundations, and massive stone blocks of the temples, they discovered something extraordinary. Multi-ton sandstone blocks fitted together with stunning precision, without the use of mortar, and with barely any visible gaps between the joints. Some blocks were even cut at complex diagonal angles aligned so tightly that not even light could pass through. This level of craftsmanship recalls the stonework of the Inca civilization in South America, where enormous stones were also cut and fitted with millimeter-level precision, forming enduring structures that have stood for thousands of years without any binding material. But while the Incas left behind some traces of their tools and methods, Koh Ker offers no such clues. There is no evidence that the Khmer people of the 10th century possessed iron saws, stone-cutting machines, or any form of precision mechanical tools. So how were they able to shape and assemble such massive sandstone blocks with seemingly impossible accuracy? Some suggest they may have mastered a lost technique, while others theorize the involvement of a specialized group of artisans, possibly from another advanced civilization, who brought with them knowledge that history has since forgotten. Through these very stones, Koh Ker seems to be telling a story, one that we are still far from fully understanding. Some stone blocks at Koh Ker were not only carved with remarkable precision, but also bear strange markings, parallel grooves, perfectly straight, as if created by mechanical saws or high-speed rotary tools. These features raise a troubling question. Did the ancient Khmer truly possess knowledge of mechanical stoneworking, or are these the remnants of a more advanced civilization long forgotten? Several independent researchers have compared the construction techniques at Koh Ker to those found at Pumapunku, Bolivia, where multi-ton stone blocks were carved with seemingly impossible precision. Although most mainstream scholars reject this comparison, the undeniable similarities in craftsmanship have sparked deep suspicion about the true extent of ancient civilizations' technological knowledge, much of which we may still be unaware of today. In less than 20 years, more than 40 temples and towers were built at Koh Ker, spread across an area of nearly 80 square kilometers. This astonishing pace of construction suggests that the site once had a highly efficient labor organization system, with thousands of workers simultaneously involved in quarrying, transporting, and assembling massive stone blocks. Remarkably, many of these stones, weighing between 1 and 5 tons, were moved from distant quarries to construction sites. Yet to this day, no clear evidence has been found of transport roads, pulleys, or mechanical tools. Some theories propose the use of wooden rollers, levers, and sheer manpower, but these explanations still fall short of accounting for the extraordinary precision of the joints, or the fact that these structures have barely settled or cracked despite more than 1,000 years of exposure to weather and earthquakes. All of this suggests that the construction techniques at Koh Ker may have gone far beyond what we previously imagined. One of the greatest mysteries is this: if Koh Ker achieved such a sophisticated level of construction, why didn't later structures, even those at Angkor, continue using the same techniques? Could it be that this knowledge was lost when the capital moved south? Or was it simply too costly and labor-intensive to replicate over time? Some theories suggest that Jayavarman IV may have relied on a special group of craftsmen, possibly from India, Java, or an unknown ancient civilization. When Koh Ker declined, this group may have vanished as well, taking with them technical secrets that history no longer records. To this day, the answer remains a void filled with speculation. From many perspectives, Koh Ker does not resemble a conventional capital. It seems more like a grand experiment in engineering religion and royal ambition, marked by deliberate and radical choices. From its unusual northeast-southwest alignment, the stepped pyramid structure, colossal statues, to mortarless stone joinery, everything points toward a separate school of thought, completely different from Angkor's traditional core. Perhaps the fact that Koh Ker only lasted for 20 years was not a failure, but a bold, short-term attempt to create an entirely new architectural legacy, one that history ultimately rejected but still lingers in the forest, quietly reminding us that ancient humanity may have known far more than we assume. In the land of Homestead, Florida, USA, nestled within the unassuming setting of a quiet, small town, stands a magnificent and peculiar structure, Coral Castle, also known as the Castle of Coral. But this is not merely an artistic or architectural creation. Coral Castle is an unsolved mystery, a challenge to scientists, engineers, and antiquities enthusiasts alike. What has made Coral Castle legendary is not just its beauty, but the way it was built by a single man, using colossal quantities of stone, and most importantly, with a construction technique that no one has been able to fully explain to this day. What do you think Edward Leedskalnin really discovered? Ancient science, forgotten energy, or something else entirely? Share your theory in the comments below. We're all still searching for answers. The creator of Coral Castle was Edward Leedskalnin, a Latvian immigrant who was small in stature and slender, with no formal training or academic background in architecture or engineering. After being left by his fiancée on the eve of their wedding, Edward left his homeland and settled in America. There, he began a strange journey lasting more than 28 years, quietly constructing Coral Castle entirely by himself. No one ever saw him at work. No one helped him move hundreds of tons of coral limestone, and he never clearly explained how he did it. Yet somehow Coral Castle came into existence, with massive stone blocks perfectly joined and gates that could swing effortlessly, as if shaped by a force beyond human comprehension. If one had to name the single most compelling reason why Coral Castle continues to mystify the world, it would undoubtedly be the way it was built. The stones used throughout the site are primarily coral limestone, with each block weighing anywhere from several tons to more than 30. Some rotating doors, carved from these blocks, weigh nearly 9 tons, yet they could spin effortlessly at the touch of a finger. When one of these doors eventually jammed and required repair, a modern team of engineers had to use industrial cranes and specialized equipment just to remove it. Even after thoroughly analyzing the internal mechanism, they couldn't restore the door to its original function. It never rotated as smoothly again. This serves as undeniable proof that Edward Leedskalnin achieved something far beyond the limits of modern engineering. And so the question arises, how did he do it? Edward was not an engineer, not a scientist. He was just a small-framed man without modern tools, without help. He typically worked at night, away from the prying eyes of others. Locals living near Coral Castle recounted seeing massive stones floating in mid-air or feeling an unusual energy around the site. While it's possible he used only pulleys, chains, and simple levers, many believe that these primitive tools couldn't possibly account for the precision and scale of what he built. Some theorists have proposed that Edward may have mastered the principles of perfect balance, yet even so, it still doesn't explain how he erected a structure with such incredible precision. Stone blocks fitted so tightly that no cement was needed, and yet the construction has withstood the test of time for nearly a century. Others, particularly researchers outside the mainstream, believe that Edward somehow tapped into a hidden form of energy, perhaps Earth's magnetic field acoustic frequencies or magnetic resonance. Edward himself once claimed in a pamphlet, "I have discovered the secrets of the pyramids and I know how to move planets." A wild statement, no doubt, but when one stands before Coral Castle, it's hard not to wonder if he truly understood something the modern world has lost. Some researchers speculate that he may have used magnetic resonance or low-frequency sound waves to temporarily reduce the weight of objects. Documents suggest that he constructed strange metallic devices shaped like antenna spirals or resonant structures. These may have emitted sound or magnetic waves that he believed could influence the material properties of stone. This is linked to a theory known as ancient acoustic technology, which some believe was also used by civilizations like the Egyptians or the Maya. However, Edward never left behind any blueprints, instructions, or detailed writings. Every secret went with him to the grave. What he left us was Coral Castle, both a physical marvel and a philosophical riddle. Have we forgotten the knowledge that once empowered our ancestors? One of the most astonishing aspects of Coral Castle is that the entire structure was built without using any kind of binding material. The massive stone blocks were carved and fitted together with such precision that not even a sheet of paper could slide between the joints. To achieve this, Edward not only had to work with incredible accuracy, but also needed a highly refined skill in surface finishing, a level of craftsmanship rarely seen. While modern constructions rely on cement, concrete, or steel for structural stability, Coral Castle has stood strong for nearly a century, without cracks, without shifts, even withstanding multiple powerful hurricanes in Florida. What raises even more curiosity is the rotating stone door weighing nearly 9 tons, which Edward designed to spin effortlessly with a light touch. It functioned perfectly for 40 years without needing maintenance. When the door eventually got stuck and had to be removed, a team of engineers discovered a sophisticated hidden system of bearings and axles inside. Yet even with access to modern tools and technology, they could not reinstall it the way it had originally worked, leading many to believe that Edward possessed a form of technical knowledge now lost to time. Over time, the theories surrounding Coral Castle have become increasingly bold and diverse, ranging from anti-gravity technology, acoustic levitation, to even intervention by extraterrestrial beings. While these ideas may sound like science fiction, when Coral Castle is compared to monumental sites like the Great Pyramid of Giza, the ruins of Pumapunku in Bolivia, or the hundreds of ton stone blocks of Baalbek, Lebanon, people begin to see it as a modern link in the chain of humanity's impossible constructions. Mainstream scientists tend to view Edward as a genius in mathematics and mechanics, someone who masterfully used principles of leverage, center of mass, and rotational force. But if that's truly the case, why has no one been able to replicate his exact methods? Even after studying the structure for decades, some documents suggest that Edward had a deep interest in magnetism, Earth's energy lines, ley lines, and even three-dimensional geometric patterns in nature. He once claimed to understand natural magnetic currents, and even to have calculated the atomic structure. These concepts go far beyond the knowledge expected of a humble craftsman and make the mystery of Coral Castle even deeper. Coral Castle still stands, with no explanation, no confession. It serves as a humbling reminder of the limits of human understanding, suggesting that somewhere in the world, ancient knowledge might still exist, held by a lone figure, a silent genius, or an unsolved enigma. Coral Castle is not just a structure, it is a question that remains unanswered. And sometimes it is these unanswered mysteries that drive us to keep searching, not only for truth, but for the limits of our own potential. Amidst the vast expanse of desert, where the sun scorches the earth into blistering heat, rises a structure that seems to have stepped out of ancient legend, Derawar Fort, the greatest desert fortress in Pakistan. Surrounded by 40 massive round bastions and towering walls nearly 30 meters high, Derawar Fort stands tall amid the golden sands, not only as a historical symbol of the Kholistan region, but also as an architectural enigma that modern science has yet to fully explain. The most astonishing aspect is not its sheer size or its age over 1,000 years, but rather the way it was built without any modern binding materials, no concrete, no cement, and yet the structure has endured through the centuries, withstanding harsh desert winds, sandstorms like blades, and the relentless passage of time. How could people from over a millennium ago build something so durable without the aid of modern technology? What do you think has helped Derawar Fort remain standing for over a millennium without cement or concrete? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's uncover this mystery together. Derawar Fort sits deep in the Kholistan Desert, a land nearly uninhabited, where only howling winds and scorching sunlight prevail. Initially constructed by the Rajput Bhati clan in the 9th century, the fort once stood as a symbol of ancient authority. It was later renovated in the 18th century by Nawab Bahawal Khan of Bahawalpur. Yet what amazes archaeologists and modern architects is that most of the fort's walls and bastions have remained intact for more than 10 centuries. Not thanks to modern techniques, but due to a traditional method of construction, using fired bricks and clay without industrial adhesives. When closely examining the walls of Derawar Fort, one can see that the bricks used are not ordinary. They are hand-fired bricks, thick, heavy, and remarkably uniform, almost without deviation. What's truly fascinating is that no cement or mortar was used between the bricks, as is standard in modern construction. Instead, ancient builders used a much simpler mixture, likely clay fine sand or plant ash, which was tightly compacted and arranged with such precision that each layer of bricks interlocked seamlessly into a sturdy mass. In sections of the wall that have collapsed over time, researchers found no steel reinforcements or internal frameworks. Everything seems to rely solely on gravity-expert stacking techniques and the natural balance of materials. This makes Derawar a prime example of exceptional ancient construction, where people using only basic tools managed to build a structure that has endured for thousands of years without any modern binding materials. Although built entirely from fired bricks and without the support of any modern binding materials, the nearly 30-meter-high walls of Derawar Fort have remained astonishingly solid for over a millennium. While modern constructions, without cement or steel reinforcement, are typically vulnerable to strong winds or even minor earthquakes, Derawar stands as a rare exception. Several engineering theories have been proposed to explain this phenomenon. First is the possibility of a deep and stable foundation, one that may have been carefully selected for its ability to absorb and disperse external forces, thereby reducing environmental impact. Next is the use of a specially treated mud mixture, a material that not only bonds well, but also expands and contracts with the extreme temperature fluctuations of the desert climate, minimizing cracking over time. Finally, the aerodynamic design of the cylindrical bastions plays a crucial role. It reduces wind resistance and evenly distributes pressure across the walls. As a result, the structure seems to possess a form of self-balancing and architectural marvel that the modern world is still striving to fully understand. In today's world, equipped with advanced materials and modern technology, constructing a massive structure like Derawar without using cement or steel would be nearly impossible. Yet over 1,000 years ago, ancient Rajput builders managed to do exactly that, not only building a long-lasting fortress, but also creating a structure capable of withstanding time, harsh climates, and even geological shifts. Some researchers in Pakistan and India have proposed a theory that they may have used a special kind of chemical mud, a mixture of clay, ash, lime, and possibly plant-based enzymes. This compound is believed to have enhanced adhesive properties that grew stronger over time rather than degrading. However, due to the lack of written records or solid archaeological evidence, this theory remains speculative. If such a technique truly existed, then Derawar might be one of the last remaining examples of a lost ancient construction science. Studying, preserving, and potentially restoring this fortress could unlock a forgotten architectural tradition, one in which humans knew how to harmonize nature and materials to create structures that could endure for millennia. Inside Derawar Fort lies a world that remains almost entirely unexplored. While parts of the outer structure have been somewhat studied, the interior, especially the deeper and underground sections, have never undergone a full archaeological excavation. This silence has given rise to countless mysterious legends. Locals speak of ancient chambers beneath the fort's secret tunnels, and even treasure buried centuries ago. Some even claim to have heard strange echoing sounds rising from the ground near the southern wall, deep muffled noises as if coming from the earth's core. There's an unspoken belief that no one should spend the night alone inside the fort, as it often feels like an invisible presence is watching. Within the darkness of those round watchtowers behind cracked walls that still stand firm without cement, may lie secrets not only of history but of ancient knowledge of how humans once harmonized with materials and nature in ways we no longer understand. What's most disheartening is that Derawar Fort is not officially protected or properly maintained. Its survival now depends mostly on community efforts, with little government initiative for deep research or conservation. Should the fortress fall into ruin, we wouldn't just lose a historical icon, we would also lose a living proof of an ancient construction method that defies modern standards. Buried deep in the sun-scorched deserts of northwestern Saudi Arabia, beyond the dunes and silence, stands a city carved not by wind or time, but by human hands, wielding a mastery we've yet to fully understand. This is Mada'in Salih, once known as Al-Hijr, a forgotten jewel of the ancient Nabatean Empire. Second only to Petra in size, yet perhaps even more mysterious, this stone city stuns modern science with its impossibilities, towering facades chiseled into fragile sandstone, carved with such precision, symmetry, and elegance that they seem almost computer-designed. How could a civilization, over 2,000 years ago, manipulate soft, crumbly rock with such finesse, without machines, without blueprints, and without error? This isn't just architecture, it's ancient genius, etched into stone, and it refuses to reveal all its secrets. Could ancient people have known a lost technique we still can't explain today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your theory. Among more than 130 tombs and ancient structures carved directly into the sandstone cliffs of Mada'in Salih, many leave modern engineers astonished. Their towering facades, some reaching up to 20 meters, feature evenly carved lines, perfectly symmetrical patterns, balanced columns and edges as sharp as if cut by blades. All of this was achieved on soft, fragile sandstone, a material prone to erosion and damage from wind and time. The fact that these details have remained so sharp for thousands of years suggests not only an exceptionally refined carving technique, but also raises a bigger question. How did ancient builders achieve such precision without any modern tools or technology? What puzzles archaeologists the most is the complete lack of evidence that the Nabateans ever used modern tools like metal scaffolding, laser measuring devices, or lifting machinery. So how were they able to carve such precise details from top to bottom, left to right? Everything appears to have been done using simple bronze or iron tools, guided only by the human hand. This raises a profound question. Did they possess a technique we've yet to uncover? Some researchers believe the Nabateans may have used temporary wooden scaffolding systems or built up earth platforms to gradually carve from the top down. However, this theory quickly runs into problems when compared with reality. The terrain at Mada'in Salih is rugged and steep, making scaffolding construction both dangerous and difficult to manage. Moreover, the perfect symmetry and precise proportions seen in the tomb facades could not have been achieved by mere visual estimation. The straight lines, evenly spaced columns, and intricately repeated patterns strongly suggest that the ancient builders relied on some special method of measurement, perhaps a visual spatial division technique or even a standardized geometric system that has yet to be discovered. Sandstone is a type of sedimentary rock formed from loosely bonded grains, making it highly vulnerable to erosion by wind, rain, and time. It's a material modern sculptors tend to avoid for intricate work, as even a slight miscalculation or uneven pressure can cause the surface to crack, chip, or lose detail. Yet at Mada'in Salih, the Nabateans not only chose sandstone, they transformed it into the primary material for their monumental architecture. Geometric motifs, animal heads, human faces, and columns in Ionic and Corinthian styles were carved deeply, evenly, and with sharp definition, in some cases even more refined than those carved into hard granite elsewhere. This has led many experts to ask, did the Nabateans possess a special formula to harden the surface before carving, or had they discovered a way to control the stone's moisture, keeping it soft enough to shape but firm enough to avoid breaking? To this day, no theory fully explains these mysteries. Some carved details at Mada'in Salih display a remarkably consistent depth and vertical alignment, something nearly impossible to achieve without modern measuring tools. The parallel cuts, sharp right angles, and symmetrical patterns suggest that the Nabateans had an advanced ability to control three-dimensional space with great precision. Some bold theories even propose that they may have used sunlight as a guiding tool, observing shadows at specific times of day to determine carving angles, essentially transforming barren rock faces into living astronomical diagrams. One of the most iconic and mysterious structures at Mada'in Salih is Qasr al-Farid, also known as the Lonely Castle. Carved from a single isolated sandstone block, this monument features a facade over 20 meters tall, with 4 evenly spaced columns, a balanced triangular pediment, and a small central doorway. But what astonishes researchers is this: only the front side is meticulously completed, while the other 3 sides remain untouched, still in their raw natural state. It's as if a grand architectural plan was initiated and then suddenly abandoned. Yet this very unfinished quality makes Qasr al-Farid the clearest testament to the Nabateans' extraordinary stone-carving mastery. The facade achieves perfect symmetry with sharp details and flawless proportions, so much so that one almost forgets it's just a partial structure. And that paradox, the beauty of something incomplete, only deepens the mystery surrounding it. One striking feature of Mada'in Salih is that no 2 tomb facades are exactly alike, yet all of them follow a surprisingly consistent design logic. Despite variations in decorative element size and carved motifs, each structure displays symmetry, balance, and harmonious composition, as if the Nabateans followed an ancient geometric rulebook, a system now lost to time. This suggests that their planning and design skills were not based solely on craftsmanship, but also on exceptional spatial intelligence and mathematical understanding to a degree that would challenge even modern artisans. In addition to their sculpting skills, the Nabateans demonstrated remarkable expertise in managing and harnessing water resources in the harsh desert environment, something that would seem nearly impossible in ancient times. They constructed underground channels, deep wells, and rainwater reservoirs, making full use of the natural terrain and underlying rock formations. To accomplish this, they must have had deep knowledge of local geology, understanding where water could seep through, where erosion might occur, and where rock would remain stable. Tombs were also strategically positioned to avoid water damage from rainfall, while entrances were often angled to catch light but avoid heat, helping maintain a cool interior. These traces reveal that the Nabateans were not just traders, they were stone architects and desert mathematicians with a truly impressive level of technical insight. Another intriguing mystery is that no traces of schools, architectural blueprints, or a specialized class of master builders have ever been found at Mada'in Salih. Was this secret knowledge passed down to a select few, or a widely shared skill within the Nabatean community? That question remains unanswered, leaving a major gap in our understanding of this ancient society. Today, under a soft orange sunset, Mada'in Salih resembles a living museum of stone sculpture, where every line and curve tells the story of an age when humans, without steel or concrete, created structures capable of outlasting 1,000 years. With soft sandstone in hand, they didn't just build, they captured the soul of a civilization. Perhaps the greatest marvel isn't the monuments themselves, but the unanswered question: in a world without blueprints, machinery, or modern compasses, how did they carve soft stone, as if drawing with a pen on paper? Amid the pristine and layered mountain ranges of Romania, where nature still preserves its untouched tranquility, lies a geological phenomenon steeped in controversy, a massive rock formation, resembling the ancient face of a human, gazing westward, standing out dramatically against the majestic backdrop of the Bucegi Mountains. Locals call it the Sphinx of Bucegi, and it attracts not only because of its unusual natural beauty, but also due to the unanswered questions surrounding its striking resemblance to the Egyptian Sphinx, despite being said to be entirely natural. And it is precisely this resemblance that has sparked a long chain of debates, hypotheses, and legends going far beyond the bounds of a normal geological formation. Do you think the Bucegi Sphinx's face is just a coincidence of nature or something more intentional? Let us know what you believe in the comments below. The Bucegi Sphinx stands out not only because of its unique location in the Carpathian Mountains, but also due to its unusual size and uncanny shape. The rock is approximately 8 meters tall and nearly 12 meters wide, perched on a rocky plateau at an altitude of around 2,200 meters above sea level on the southern side of the Bucegi Range. From a very specific angle, especially at sunset, the rock suddenly reveals a human-like face, complete with astonishing details, like a forehead, nose bridge, lips, chin, and even the shape of a headpiece reminiscent of the traditional headdresses worn by ancient Egyptian pharaohs. Many visitors describe a shared feeling of awe, as if they are standing before a relic from a long-lost civilization, a sculpture carved into stone thousands of years ago by human hands. This almost unbelievable resemblance has made the Bucegi Sphinx the center of numerous mysterious and alternative theories. According to official geological surveys, the Bucegi Sphinx was formed through natural weathering over millions of years as wind, water, and time gradually eroded the soft sandstone layers. In nature, it's not uncommon for rock formations to take on strange shapes. Many similar phenomena have been recorded around the world. However, what makes the Bucegi Sphinx truly exceptional is the haunting level of realism in its facial features, clear, symmetrical, and proportionate, something rarely seen in randomly formed rocks. This has led many independent researchers and believers in ancient civilization theories to ask, is this really just a coincidence of nature, or could it be an intentionally crafted structure so perfectly weathered over time that it now appears entirely natural? When compared to the Great Sphinx of Giza, a structure believed to have been built over 4,000 years ago in Egypt, the similarity between the two rock formations becomes strikingly clear. Both feature a side-profile human face, express a solemn and majestic expression, and are situated on solid bedrock. However, the key difference lies in the evidence of human intervention. While the Giza Sphinx is supported by extensive archaeological records, clear construction evidence, and detailed historical documentation, the Bucegi Sphinx shows no signs whatsoever of having been carved by human hands. There are no chisel marks, no ancient tools discovered nearby, and no materials present other than natural stone. This creates a strange paradox. It looks like a sculpture, but there's no proof that it was ever made by humans. Some geologists believe that the facial shape of the Bucegi Sphinx is merely the result of pareidolia, a psychological phenomenon where people perceive faces in random patterns or shapes. According to them, when viewed from a specific angle, the shadows and natural contours of the rock align in a way that creates the illusion of a human face. However, critics argue that if it were just an illusion, then how can features like the nose bridge, cheekbones, forehead and chin appear so well-proportioned, symmetrical, and clearly defined? These elements align almost perfectly with the structure of a real human face, making the coincidence theory difficult to accept for many observers. In addition, drone images and photos taken from various angles show that the face maintains a certain visual consistency even with changes in perspective. Some photographers point out that at sunset, the shadows cast across the stone's ridges create a dramatic 3D effect, making the face seem even more alive, as if it were observing the world with the quiet gaze of time itself. From a folkloric standpoint, the Bucegi Sphinx is also the heart of many ancient legends in the region. Locals believe it to be the face of a deity guarding the Carpathian forests, or perhaps the petrified form of a giant who once ruled the land. Some stories connect the Sphinx to the mythical Hyperborea, a legendary northern civilization believed to have been home to giants with cosmic knowledge. In esoteric literature, the Bucegi Sphinx is considered an energy node, sitting on one of Earth's energy grid intersections, much like the Great Pyramid of Giza, Stonehenge, or Machu Picchu. A bold and controversial theory among alternative researchers suggests that the Bucegi Sphinx may actually be the original prototype, and that the Egyptian Sphinx could be a replica or a symbolic tribute to a much older structure that once existed in the Eastern European mountains. While there is no concrete archaeological evidence to confirm this, the theory opens a new line of inquiry, rather than viewing Egyptian civilization as the starting point. There may have been a much earlier prehistoric civilization whose faint traces remain in natural stone formations. In the current context, where sites like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey and Gunung Padang in Indonesia are forcing scholars to rewrite human history, re-examining the significance of the Bucegi Sphinx is a line of thought that deserves serious consideration. Another remarkable detail that adds to the mystery of the Bucegi Sphinx is its geographic alignment with significant astronomical events. Several independent research groups have observed and recorded that during the spring and autumn equinoxes, sunlight strikes directly at the center of the Sphinx's face, creating a striking visual effect. This phenomenon is reminiscent of how ancient structures like Stonehenge or the Great Pyramid of Giza were built in alignment with the movements of the sun and stars. The fact that sunlight interacts so precisely with the Bucegi Sphinx at these specific times further fuels the belief that its position is not accidental but may have been intentionally chosen or shaped in ancient times. Naturally, mainstream scientists remain cautious. They argue that assigning symbolic or astronomical meaning to natural rocks is scientifically unfounded without clear archaeological evidence. However, they also acknowledge that the Bucegi Sphinx is among the few natural formations that trigger such strong debates over shape, perception, and meaning. Today, the Bucegi Sphinx is not only a place of curiosity, it is a destination for spiritual seekers, adventure travelers, and cultural explorers alike. People from around the world journey here to witness the legendary stone formation, to feel the stillness of the mountains, and to quietly contemplate the question that remains unanswered. Is this simply nature's art, or a lost message from a forgotten civilization? In southwestern Iran, where the gentle Karun River winds through the semi-arid Khuzestan region, lies one of the greatest ancient engineering marvels ever created by humankind, the Shushtar historical hydraulic system. Recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site in the year 2009, Shushtar is not merely a water supply system, but a living hydraulic city, where water flows through stone powers, grain mills, irrigates vast agricultural lands, and even serves defensive purposes. But what astonishes researchers the most, and continues to puzzle minds to this day, is the complexity of its construction. How did ancient people without modern tools or simulation software manage to design and build a fully functional hydraulic network that remains accurate and operational after nearly 2,000 years? What do you think was the secret behind their engineering skills? Let us know your theory in the comments below. Originating in the era of the Sassanid Empire around the 3rd century AD, the Shushtar hydraulic system stands as a pinnacle of ancient intellect and societal organization. It consists of dozens of interconnected structures, dams, underground canals, aqueducts, water towers, hydraulic mills, reservoirs, and even bridges. One of its most prominent features is the Gargar Dam, which diverts the Karun River into a system of man-made channels supplying water to the city and its surrounding farmland. The entire system is designed to harness natural water pressure while optimizing the limestone topography, creating regulated flows that required almost no human intervention once constructed. Hidden deep among massive stone blocks and roaring underground channels lies a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. Many of the water conduits in the Shushtar system weren't merely dug through soil, they were carved directly into solid bedrock, stretching for dozens of meters with gradients calculated down to the centimeter. Strangely, despite the absence of modern measuring tools, these channels still ensured a continuous water flow with stable pressure enough to turn water wheels, power mills, or irrigate entire fields. How could ancient builders construct such complex systems using only primitive tools? It's a question that has puzzled scientists for decades. To this day, archaeologists and modern engineers have not found definitive traces of the tools used to construct the system. There are no clear signs of metal tools, no significant inconsistencies in depth, no evidence of scientific measuring instruments such as lasers levels or GPS. Everything appears to have been done by feel, or was it through some now lost technology? Some theories suggest that Roman engineers captured as prisoners of war may have contributed to the design of the Shushtar hydraulic system, as certain techniques bear striking similarities to ancient Roman waterworks. However, this explanation fails to fully account for the entire structure, because the Sassanids didn't just build canals, they skillfully harnessed the natural terrain. They created fuel-free pumps where, using only elevation differences and natural pressure, water could flow for hundreds of meters and even be pushed uphill. What's truly astonishing is that even with today's advanced technology, replicating these mechanisms remains challenging, especially when it comes to maintaining stable water flow without causing unwanted pooling or overflow. Another astonishing aspect of the Shushtar hydraulic system is that many of its channels were built entirely underground, not only carved through solid rock, but also curving with meticulously calculated directional shifts. When modern researchers created a 3D model of the system, they discovered a water network with an almost unbelievable level of precision, from flow speed and water pressure to elevation differences, all optimized with remarkable accuracy. Today, such complex technical parameters require specialized software and digital topographic maps to calculate. Yet the ancients accomplished all of this using only stone bare hands and experiential knowledge without any modern technology. This leaves scientists both amazed and perplexed by the truly advanced engineering skills of those who came long before us. One of the reasons why the Shushtar system is often described as a symphony of water lies in the perfect coordination between each of its structural components. Every canal retaining wall and drainage outlet was positioned with incredible precision, each acting like a cog in a seamlessly operating machine. As the Karan River splits, the water flows through mills, powering giant wooden wheels, and then continues through underground conduits to reach distant farmlands. There is no waste, no overflow, no chaos. Every stream is perfectly controlled. This smooth, uninterrupted flow reflects a level of integrated design far ahead of its time, where every detail served a unified and optimized purpose. One astonishing fact that continues to baffle scientists is that parts of the Shushtar hydraulic system are still functioning today, nearly 2 millennia after their construction. While many modern structures deteriorate within just a few decades, Shushtar, built without cement or steel, has retained its original form, precision, and functionality. Many experts believe this is the result of centuries of accumulated local knowledge passed down through generations of stoneworkers, engineers, and ancient farmers. Yet a puzzling question remains: why were no blueprints or technical records ever found, and why didn't such an effective engineering method spread to other regions? These questions remain unanswered, just like the secrets buried deep beneath the soil of Shushtar. Some Western scholars have proposed bold theories that go beyond conventional thinking. They suggest that the Sassanids may have possessed a unique form of construction technology, not machines in the modern sense, but a profound understanding of natural physics, hydraulics, and rock structures. It's possible they developed an ability to sense terrain through sound vibrations, observe surface tension in water, or analyze how water seeped through different types of stone. Such knowledge may have been intuitive, accumulated over generations, and not necessarily recorded in writing. Additionally, some believe that many of these technical secrets were lost or deliberately concealed, especially after the sudden fall of the Sassanid Empire in the 7th century. That historical rupture may have buried invaluable knowledge that once allowed this region to thrive in ways we still don't fully comprehend. Today, as archaeologists continue to excavate Shushtar, new portions of the system are still being uncovered. Water tunnels buried under stone underground segments not shown on any maps. Some modern engineers have admitted, without high-tech equipment, I wouldn't know how to replicate even a small part of this system. In the end, Shushtar is more than an architectural relic. It is a living manuscript of an ancient intellect we still do not fully comprehend. And perhaps beneath Iran's soil, under layers of limestone and silent flowing waters, the answers still lie waiting to be unearthed. In the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, where empires once rose and fell like tides, stands a structure so bold, so out of place, it seems to defy the era that birthed it. Taq Kasra, or the Arch of Ctesiphon, is more than just a ruin. It is a monumental enigma, the last echo of a vanished empire, a colossal brick arch towering over the desert, untouched by steel, unsupported by mortar theories that make sense. For nearly 1,400 years, it has stood alone, unshaken, and misunderstood. How did a civilization with no modern machinery create the largest freestanding brick arch the ancient world had ever seen? Why does no one truly know how it was built? And what secrets might still lie buried beneath its silent shadow? Could ancient builders have known something we've lost today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Taq Kasra is not merely a solitary arch or a minor architectural element of the ancient world. It is a massive vaulted structure built entirely from fired bricks with no steel reinforcements and no hidden support beams, yet it has stood tall for nearly 15 centuries. Standing over 37 meters high, approximately 26 meters wide, and more than 50 meters deep, this structure surpasses the known engineering limits of its time. What's truly astonishing is that no architectural plans have survived, and there are no existing texts from the Sassanid era describing how it was constructed. Modern researchers remain completely in the dark about how the ancients erected scaffolding, mixed mortar, or placed each brick in such a precise sequence that the arch held together throughout the entire building process. Taq Kasra doesn't just defy time, it challenges our very understanding of ancient engineering and the intellectual legacy of lost civilizations. Modern researchers have applied various methods to decipher the structure of Taq Kasra, from on-site surveys and 3D scanning to digital engineering simulations. However, no theory to date has proven truly convincing. Some scholars believe the Sassanids may have used a gravity-locking technique where each brick was placed with such precision that the forces from all sides balanced naturally, keeping the entire arch stable. But if this theory holds true, it would require a level of mathematical knowledge, engineering skill, and architectural intuition far ahead of its time, something hard to imagine without detailed plans or advanced measuring tools. As a result, Taq Kasra remains an unsolved puzzle in the field of ancient structural engineering. Some theories suggest that the Sassanids might have used a massive wooden framework to support the arch during its construction. However, no archaeological evidence has been found to confirm the existence of such a temporary structure. Even if the theory were true, erecting scaffolding large enough to span the entire arch and keeping it stable for several years during construction in the harsh climate of Mesopotamia would have been a tremendous technical challenge far beyond the typical capabilities of that era. One detail often overlooked is that the arch of Taq Kasra is not perfectly symmetrical, like many classical arches. Its curvature subtly shifts along the vertical axis, with angles and depth changing in a delicate, almost imperceptible way, indicating that this was not a structure built from a standard template, but rather the result of extraordinarily complex and precise calculations. This raises compelling questions. Who designed it? Who oversaw its construction? Could it be that under the Sassanid Empire, there existed a group of specialized engineers and architects with exceptional knowledge, yet whose names and contributions have been completely lost to written history? Did they possess a now lost construction tradition, one capable of producing timeless architectural wonders? If so, then the disappearance of that tradition is just as mysterious as the structure itself. When compared to famous Roman arch structures like the Pantheon or stone bridges, Taq Kasra reveals a fundamental difference. It was built entirely from fired bricks, not massive stone blocks like in Western architecture. This made the engineering challenge exponentially greater. Bricks are smaller, lighter, and far more prone to displacement than large stones, requiring the builders to calculate with extreme precision the placement angles, pressure distribution, and gravitational balance. Maintaining the stability of such a massive arch, using only bricks without collapse, is something almost unimaginable for most other ancient civilizations. Some scholars suggest that Taq Kasra resulted from a blend of Roman architectural influence and native Persian ingenuity, while others assert that it is a cultural original, a standalone creation of the Sassanid civilization that borrowed from no one. Moreover, the structure itself provokes deeper thought. It was not merely a vaulted shelter from rain or sun, it was an immense, hollow space. A royal hall perhaps for hosting foreign emissaries, performing ceremonies, or simply showcasing the empire's physical might. In the political context of the era where the Sassanids competed for influence with the Roman and later Byzantine empires, Taq Kasra can be seen as an architectural declaration of power, saying, in effect, we too can create immortal monuments. And indeed it still stands today, while many Western structures have crumbled through time. What deepens the mystery is that the entire remainder of the city of Ctesiphon, a metropolis once housing tens of thousands of residents, temples, fortifications and palaces, has nearly vanished. No comparable architectural traces survive to analyze or compare. Taq Kasra is like a strange solo performance, still echoing in the desert, with no accompaniment, no backdrop. Without it, we might have forgotten an entire empire. Yet because it still stands, it invites countless questions. Who built it? How, for what purpose? And why has its engineering left no trace elsewhere? Today, Taq Kasra continues to resist time erosion warfare and human indifference. For many years, it has faced the risk of collapse due to a lack of preservation. International campaigns have urged UNESCO and the Iraqi government to act, but restoration efforts remain slow. And every fallen brick, every expanding crack is not just a material loss, but a fragment of ancient technical memory on the verge of vanishing forever. In sum, Taq Kasra is not merely an architectural remnant. It is an open challenge to the 21st century, a call for scientists, architects, engineers, and historians to collaborate. Could it be that lost ancient construction secrets still await rediscovery? And if so, unlocking them could reshape our understanding of what ancient civilizations were capable of, those who built wonders not with machines or steel, but with bare hands and grand visions. Taq Kasra, with its towering brick arch rising from the desert, may be the most vivid proof of the past's untapped potential and a reminder that some ancient mysteries still await resolution, not through technology, but through patience, reverence, and the human thirst for knowledge. Buried in the heart of Arabia's blistering desert lies a structure so advanced, so ambitious, it seems like it was built out of time. Long before the Roman aqueducts or Chinese floodgates, an ancient civilization, the Sabaeans constructed a dam that not only controlled rivers, but sustained life in the unlikeliest of places. The Great Dam of Marib wasn't just a wall against water. It was a marvel of precision, engineering a lifeline for a kingdom, and a mystery that still defies modern understanding. How did ancient engineers achieve what would challenge even today's architects? And why has the world forgotten one of humanity's earliest megaprojects? Do you think ancient civilizations knew more than we give them credit for? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think. According to many archaeological studies, the Marib Dam began construction around the 8th century BCE, which means it was built more than 2,700 years ago. That places its origin before the Roman Empire even existed, before the Greeks developed Euclidean geometry, and even earlier than the reign of Qin Shi Huang in China. At that time, most civilizations were still in the early stages of developing water management systems. Yet the Sabaeans were already thinking about controlling water, a critical resource in one of the driest regions on Earth. Standing tall in the vast desert, the Marib Dam continues to astonish archaeologists with its massive scale and extraordinary structure. Estimated to stretch between 600 and 700 meters in length and rising from 7 to 15 meters, depending on the restoration phase, this dam may not be the tallest in the world, but it stands out due to its strategic importance and impressive presence in an extremely arid region. What's remarkable is that the Sabaeans didn't use cement or steel. The entire structure was built using compacted earth-small stones and large rock blocks fitted together with precision. Maintaining structural stability over centuries required deep knowledge of gravity slope gradients and water pressure concepts. many believe should have been beyond the grasp of people at that time. So how did they do it? One of the greatest marvels of the Marib Dam lies in its dual water distribution system, a design that was both bold and remarkably sophisticated. Instead of merely storing water, the Sabaeans constructed two large parallel canals running from either side of the dam, channeling water across great distances to irrigate the entire Wadi Dana Valley, a region known as the fertile land within the desert. What made this system truly unique was its intelligent integration of components, a network of branching channels, intermediate regulation basins, flow control gates, and even auxiliary flood discharge routes designed to prevent overflow. During each rainy season, water from the surrounding mountains would flow into a main stream, which was then held back and precisely redirected through a pre-calculated layout. This not only ensured sustainable agriculture in an otherwise harsh climate, but also helped retain soil moisture, allowing crops to thrive year-round. The most astonishing part is that all of this was done entirely by human hands, without any modern machinery, and even before Archimedes discovered the principle of fluid pressure. One of the most impressive aspects of the Marib Dam is its ability to endure for nearly a full millennium, something even many modern structures struggle to achieve. Over that long period, despite suffering damage from major floods or earthquakes, the dam was continuously maintained, reinforced, and upgraded by successive generations, all without altering its original core design. Excavations have revealed at least 5 major phases of renovation, each reflecting significant advances in hydraulic engineering, from reinforcing the dam body and expanding water channels to optimizing the distribution system. What's remarkable is that this maintenance process wasn't random or improvised, but a systematic series of actions requiring a high level of social organization. It demonstrates that ancient authorities were capable of mobilizing labor materials and technical expertise effectively across centuries, something not all modern societies can sustain with such long-term consistency. One of the greatest mysteries surrounding the Marib Dam is who actually designed this monumental structure. Despite extensive archaeological and historical research, no records have been found that name a chief engineer design team, or even original construction plans. There are no manuals, no blueprints, only the dam itself remains. This has given rise to numerous theories. Could all that technical knowledge have been lost in wars or erased by the passage of time? Or did the Sabaeans inherit this expertise from an even older civilization? Perhaps one that vanished entirely and remains unknown to us today. When compared to other structures from the same era, the Marib Dam represents a dramatic leap in both thinking and engineering. While the Sad el-Kafara Dam in Egypt, circa 2600 BCE, and Mesopotamian irrigation systems were largely single-purpose, such as flood prevention or channeling water from point A to point B, the Marib Dam demonstrated a comprehensive and integrated approach. It not only stored water, but also intelligently managed its flow, maintaining long-term soil moisture for an entire valley, something extremely rare for that period. Its system of branching canals, regulation basins, and flow distribution was so precisely arranged that it formed a large-scale, flexible, and forward-thinking water management network. Because of this sophistication, even the Romans, famed for their architectural and engineering prowess, once sent delegations to study and attempt to replicate the Sabaeans' model. This shows that even in ancient times, the Marib Dam was already recognized as a structure of immense significance, not just locally, but in the eyes of the world's most advanced civilizations. Today, the Marib Dam remains only as a shadow of its former greatness, with much of it buried beneath thick desert sands and the passage of time. Some sections of the dam's body still stand, but its most critical part, the complex water distribution system, has almost entirely vanished, making it extremely difficult to reconstruct how it originally operated. Although many archaeological teams and modern engineers have studied the site, no model has successfully recreated the dam's full operating mechanism. Some theories suggest that the ancients may have cleverly used the natural slope of the terrain, seasonal pressure variations, and even smart sediment traps to regulate water flow. However, so far these ideas remain speculative, and the Marib Dam continues to challenge the limits of modern understanding. The Great Dam of Marib is not merely a technical wonder. It is a profound message from the past about human creativity, discipline, and adaptability in the face of harsh environments. In today's world, as we face climate crises, water shortages, and resource depletion, ancient marvels like Marib remind us that technology doesn't need to be modern to be effective. It must be intelligent, sustainable, and in harmony with nature. Hidden beneath the shadow of volcanoes and cloaked in the lush mists of central Java lies one of humanity's most stunning architectural achievements and its most enduring mysteries. Prambanan, the largest Hindu temple complex in Southeast Asia, was once a sprawling religious city of gods and stone with over 200 temples, rising in perfect cosmic harmony. But today, only a handful remain standing. The rest vanished, dismantled, erased. What happened to these forgotten shrines? Was it the fury of nature shaking the ground beneath them? Or were they brought down by the hands of humans through conquest, belief, or betrayal? Somewhere in the rubble of this ancient masterpiece lies a truth that history has buried, and we're about to uncover it. So what do you think really caused hundreds of Prambanan's temples to disappear? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's uncover this mystery together. Prambanan was once a majestic religious wonder, consisting of more than 240 temples, all arranged in a Hindu cosmological layout with astonishing precision. The three main temples dedicated to Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma stood proudly at the center, surrounded by hundreds of smaller shrines forming concentric circles. But today, that grand structure is only a shadow of what it once was. Only 8 main temples have been partially restored, while over 90% of the smaller shrines have almost completely vanished. What was once a sacred labyrinth is now reduced to broken foundations, cracked bricks, and piles of scattered ruins lying in silence. Who or what wiped out such a vital part of Prambanan's soul? That mystery remains unsolved. One of the most widely accepted explanations for the collapse of Prambanan's subsidiary temples is natural destruction. The island of Java lies in one of the most seismically active regions in the world, with dozens of active volcanoes, frequent earthquakes, and long monsoon seasons. Some ancient records mention a massive earthquake in the 16th century, believed to have brought down many structures, especially the smaller shrines built with less durable materials than the main temples. However, modern archaeologists remain skeptical. If earthquakes were truly to blame, why did the taller, more massive temples, more vulnerable to shaking, survive, while the smaller ones were completely destroyed? Many structures didn't simply collapse as a whole, but appear to have been dismantled stone by stone. These signs cast doubt on the theory of nature's wrath as a fully convincing explanation. Another compelling theory suggests that the disappearance of hundreds of Prambanan's smaller shrines was the result of a deliberate act of destruction tied to the religious and political upheavals in Java's history. Beginning in the 15th century, as Islam gradually became the dominant faith in the region, many Hindu and Buddhist structures were abandoned, seen as remnants of an ancient polytheistic era. Historical records from the Islamization period mention the destruction of Hindu statues, and it's not unlikely that there were organized campaigns to dismantle the minor shrines structures that were smaller, less protected, and dedicated to lesser deities. Curiously, the main temples, such as the one devoted to Shiva, remained largely intact, perhaps due to the belief that offending the god of destruction could invite dire consequences. If such destruction truly occurred, then the question is, who was behind it? Was it the command of new rulers? Or were local communities forced to transform a sacred sanctuary into a ruined wasteland? The answer remains buried beneath layers of collapsed stone and centuries of silence. A more pragmatic theory suggests that during the kingdom's decline, local villagers dismantled the smaller shrines to reuse the stones for building homes, walls, wells, or other everyday structures. This idea is supported by the discovery of Hindu carved stones reused in old villages surrounding Prambanan. However, this raises several questions. Why didn't they take stones from the main temples, which had larger structures and more material? Why were the smaller shrines destroyed down to their foundations, leaving barely a trace? The level of dismantling appears too thorough and systematic, going far beyond the simple need for building materials. It's possible that stone reuse was merely a convenient justification for an intentional act of destruction, whether for religious, political, or ideological reasons, aimed at erasing the memory of an older belief system. Some researchers have proposed the theory that many of Prambanan's smaller temples were never actually completed. Based on archaeological findings of unfinished foundations, lacking roofs or vaulted structures, they suggest construction may have been halted midway, possibly due to war, natural disaster, or dynastic change. However, this theory has faced strong counter-arguments. Old architectural drawings, 3D reconstructions, and archaeological records from the 19th century clearly depict fully constructed shrines with vaulted roofs and signature spires. Moreover, some ancient texts refer to religious festivals involving all 240 temples, indicating that the entire complex once functioned as a complete and unified sacred site. This makes the never-completed theory less convincing and further strengthens the possibility that the smaller temples were deliberately dismantled or destroyed later on for reasons still unknown. The jagged stones littering Prambanan's grounds are not just broken materials, they are ripped pages from a sacred book of myths, faith, civilization, and art. Each stone was once part of a story. But who tore the story apart, and why? We may never have enough evidence to provide a definitive answer, but the fact remains more than 200 temples, carefully planned and built into a magnificent cosmic layout, are now gone. That cannot be chalked up to chance. It is the outcome of a tangled history of natural, human, and political forces, woven in the dark. Today, Indonesian and international archaeologists are working patiently and meticulously to restore each temple. However, this task is far from simple. No original blueprints exist, and many of the stones have been lost, broken, or reused elsewhere. According to conservation standards, only temples with at least 75% of their original materials are eligible for reconstruction, leaving hundreds of minor shrines forever buried as nameless, sun-scorched piles of stone. Faced with this reality, a difficult question arises. Should we attempt to rebuild them all, or leave them undisturbed as silent witnesses to a vanished history? The decision is not merely technical, but also a reflection of how humanity confronts memory and forgetfulness. Prambanan is not merely a grand monument. It is a symbol of upheaval. Between faith and power, between art and destruction, between preservation and erasure. The disappearance of hundreds of shrines may not have been an accident of nature, but rather the result of ideological or strategic human decisions. We may never know who exactly destroyed the minor temples, but it is clear that their loss has forever altered how future generations perceive one of the world's greatest Hindu centers. The question is not just who did it, but also what will we do with what's left. Located in Delhi, the historical, cultural, and political heart of India, Qutb Minar is not just an outstanding architectural monument, but also the embodiment of one of the greatest mysteries in the architectural history of the South Asian subcontinent. With a height of 73 meters, 5 ascending stories reaching into the sky, and intricate inscriptions etched into layers of red sandstone, This structure has long been seen as a symbol of Islamic power during the medieval era. However, beneath the glamorous exterior and the officially recorded historical narrative, there lies a deeper mystery that raises a troubling question. Who was the true original builder of Qutb Minar? What do you think? Could Qutb Minar have once been a Hindu or Jain structure, later transformed by conquerors, or was it truly built from the ground up by the Islamic rulers of Delhi? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your theory. According to official historical accounts, the tower was initiated around the year 1192 during the reign of Qutb-ud-Din Aibak, the founder of the Mamluk dynasty. He is believed to have commissioned the construction of Qutb Minar to mark the Islamic victory in Delhi and to assert religious dominance over a region once ruled by Hinduism and Jainism. The later levels were added by Iltutmish, and the tower was eventually completed by Firoz Shah Tughlaq after several earthquakes damaged its upper structure. However, mounting archaeological evidence has increasingly cast doubt on this mainstream narrative. The deeper researchers excavate within the Qutb complex, the more signs they uncover, suggesting that Qutb Minar may not have been a brand new structure built entirely from scratch. On the contrary, it appears to have been constructed atop a pre-existing structure, quite possibly a Hindu place of worship. This theory gains even more traction when examining Quwwatul Islam, the first mosque built in India, located right beside Qutb Minar. The intricately carved pillars there lack the hallmarks of Islamic art and instead clearly feature lotus motifs depictions of the Hindu god Vishnu and the divine eagle Garuda, all unmistakable symbols of Hindu belief. Moreover, several ancient texts refer to Qutb Minar as Vishnustam, the Tower of Vishnu, rather than Qutb, further fueling suspicions that Aibak may have merely repurposed or renovated an older structure rather than being its true originator. Was the Islamic Empire reclaiming and transforming an ancient Hindu structure, erasing its original function and replacing it with a new religious identity? Or was Qutb Minar genuinely built from the ground up as a bold declaration of new imperial power? The answer remains an unresolved mystery, but the scattered archaeological clues and fragmented historical records only make the question of its true builder more compelling than ever. One of the clearest signs raising questions about the true origins of Qutb Minar lies in its architecture itself. A close examination of the tower and the entire Qutb complex reveals a curious blend of styles. The upper levels of the minaret clearly reflect Islamic artistry, with flowing Arabic inscriptions and refined arabesque patterns. But the base and many of the stone pillars in the area bear the unmistakable hallmarks of ancient Hindu craftsmanship: lotus motifs, the divine eagle Garuda, the god Vishnu, and numerous sacred creatures, all of which are forbidden in Orthodox Islamic art. Even more striking is the fact that scholars have confirmed that materials from more than 27 demolished Hindu and Jain temples were reused in the construction of the Quwwatul Islam Mosque, which stands right beside the tower. This raises a critical question: if these were entirely new Islamic structures, why were stones carved with Hindu deities considered heretical in Islam used in their construction? Could it be that ancient temples already existed on this site, and the Islamic rulers merely repurposed them, transforming the area into a new religious center? This question reveals a buried layer of history, one that challenges the long-accepted narrative of how Qutb Minar was built. There are a number of architectural inconsistencies in Qutb Minar that official records fail to adequately explain. Why does each level of the tower display such distinct differences in materials, construction techniques, and design styles? Is this simply the result of a prolonged building process spanning multiple dynasties? Or does it suggest that the original structure served an entirely different purpose and was later altered to suit the needs of successive rulers? Even the name Qutb Minar is not consistently used in ancient texts. Some sources refer to it merely as the Great Tower or the Victory Pillar, while others claim that the name Qutb is not associated with Qutb-ud-Din Aibak at all, but instead comes from a revered Sufi saint Qutb-ud-Din Bakhtiar Kaki. If true, this further weakens Aibak's credited role in the monument's creation. Additionally, the orientation of the tower does not perfectly align with Mecca, a sacred requirement in Islamic architecture when building a minaret. If Qutb Minar was truly constructed as a call to prayer tower, why would it ignore such a fundamental spiritual guideline? These grey areas fracture the accepted narrative of its construction and open up the possibility that the structure may not have originally been intended for Islamic purposes at all. To this day, the question of whether Qutb Minar was truly built to commemorate an Islamic victory or whether it is the result of modifying an ancient Hindu structure remains unanswered. The inconsistencies in historical records, the hybrid architectural styles, the reuse of materials from earlier temples, and the tower's misalignment with Mecca all resemble scattered fragments of an incomplete puzzle. Increasingly, scholars are supporting the theory that this site was once a sacred center of Hinduism or Jainism, a holy ground that was conquered and then overlaid with new symbols of power. If this theory proves true, then Qutb Minar is not merely an architectural monument, but a vivid symbol of cultural, religious, and political transition, one marked by conflict and transformation across centuries. After more than 8 centuries of existence, Qutb Minar still stands tall in the skies of Delhi as a monumental beacon of time. Yet amid the layers of red sandstone, the Arabic inscriptions, and the Hindu carved columns, there seems to be a faint voice whispering of a forgotten history, an unfinished history, an untold truth. The question who truly built Qutb Minar may never have a single answer, but it is precisely this ambiguity, this unsolved puzzle, that makes Qutb Minar one of the most mysterious, debated, and captivating structures of Indian civilization. On a towering rocky hill in Syria's Holmes Gap, once a vital crossroads of the Crusades, stands one of the grandest surviving medieval fortresses, Krak des Chevaliers. Its name roughly translates to Fortress of the Knights, but its significance goes far beyond the massive stones and walls up to 3 meters thick. This is a living symbol of European military engineering during the Middle Ages and arguably the strongest stronghold of resistance throughout more than a century of conflict between Western Christianity and Eastern Islamic empires. And more than its appearance, Krak des Chevaliers harbors one of the greatest unresolved mysteries. How did it survive multiple years of siege without falling? What do you think helped Krak des Chevaliers survive for so many years under siege? Drop your theory in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Krak des Chevaliers did not always look as imposing as it does today. It began as a small fortress built by Muslims in the 11th century, but after falling into the hands of the Knights Hospitaller, a religious military order tasked with protecting pilgrims and defending the faith, it was completely reconstructed into a massive war machine. From the year 1142 until the mid-13th century, the Knights upgraded Krak into a multi-layered defense system, capable of holding 2,000 soldiers at once and strong enough to withstand any siege weapons of its time. From afar, it may resemble a typical European castle, but a closer look reveals that every architectural detail was optimized for long-term survival and warfare. One of Krak's key features is its double curtain wall system, an outer and inner wall ranging from 2 to 3 meters thick and over 10 meters high, with interspersed towers and underground corridors linking the sections. Its semicircular towers minimized blind spots for archers. Entrances were designed in L shapes, forming blind corners to prevent battering rams from attacking doors head-on. Each entry point became a death trap where defenders could rain down stones, arrows, or boiling oil. Living quarters were located deep within the center of the fortress, surrounded by high walls, ensuring that even if the outer wall was breached, the inner keep could still function as a standalone stronghold. The chapel, granary, stables, cisterns, and the knights' quarters were all protected within, making Krak a true war city. One of the greatest mysteries surrounding Krak the Chevaliers, and what has made this fortress the subject of centuries-long debate, is the question: how did it manage to withstand prolonged sieges lasting for many years without collapsing? According to numerous historical records, the fortress endured several brutal sieges, the most notable being Sultan Baybar's campaign in the year 1271. Despite being completely cut off from outside supply lines and isolated in harsh conditions, the Knights Hospitaller not only held their ground, but also survived with sufficient food and clean water. This was nearly unthinkable for any medieval fortress. Scholars have proposed several theories to explain this phenomenon. The first involves an extremely intelligent system for collecting and storing rainwater. Krak was built on a natural limestone slope, which allowed rainwater to be channeled into large cisterns located within the fortress itself. Some of these underground reservoirs still exist today and could supply water for hundreds of people over several months. Beyond that, archaeological evidence also points to the existence of wells drilled deep into the mountain, a rare and advanced technique for that era, especially under constant threat of war. Next is the food storage system, designed with long-term defense in mind. Inside the fortress are sealed rooms with no windows and thick vaulted ceilings, which helped maintain stable temperatures and reduce humidity, ideal conditions for preserving food like grains, salt-dried meat, and cooking oil for extended periods. This architectural approach allowed the knights to stockpile enough provisions to last for several years, something only achievable with surprisingly advanced storage technology for the time. In addition, Krak's ventilation and humidity control systems were carefully engineered. Air ducts and skylights not only helped cool the interior, but also prevented the growth of mold and bacteria in both living quarters and food storage areas. Another factor that cannot be overlooked is the extraordinary discipline and endurance of the Knights Hospitaller themselves. They were not only warriors but also monks trained in ascetic environments, accustomed to minimalist living, and strictly obedient to rules. It's very likely they rationed supplies, tightly recycled water efficiently, and may have even used the inner courtyard to grow vegetables, a primitive form of self-sufficiency during wartime. Some legends even claim that Krak had at least one secret tunnel leading out to the surrounding valley, allowing for covert supply runs or emergency evacuations. However, to this day, these tunnels remain unverified due to complex geology and Syria's ongoing political instability. All of these factors taken together lead many historians to believe that Krak des Chevaliers could sustain itself independently for anywhere from 2 to 5 years, an extraordinary feat in the history of European fortresses. One of the most mysterious aspects of Krak des Chevaliers lies deep beneath the fortress itself. To this day, most of its underground chambers and lower levels remain unexcavated and largely unexplored. Many archaeologists and historians suspect that beneath the ancient limestone may exist secret rooms, weapon caches, encrypted archives, or even undiscovered tombs. There have been proposals to use ground-penetrating radar (GPR) to scan the entire underground area, but these efforts were halted due to the ongoing conflict in Syria. As a result, Krak's greatest secrets may still be quietly resting underground, waiting for the day they are uncovered revealing a hidden chapter of medieval history. Ironically, after withstanding so many sieges, Krak des Chevaliers fell not by force, but by trickery in the year 1271. Sultan Baybars forged a fake letter bearing surrender orders from the Knights Commander in Tripoli. The garrison, believing the letter to be genuine, evacuated the fortress without a single fight. That a fortress could survive everything thrown at it for over a century only to fall to a single piece of paper adds a bittersweet twist to its long and heroic legacy. After its capture, Krak was abandoned for centuries. It wasn't until the 19th and 20th centuries that Western archaeologists and historians rediscovered Krak and recognized it as one of the best-preserved medieval military castles in the world. In 2006, UNESCO added Krak des Chevaliers to its list of World Heritage Sites as a living monument of the Crusades era and as an enduring mystery of survival under prolonged siege. Krak des Chevaliers is more than architecture. It is a symbol of resilience, a challenge to the limits of engineering resources and the human spirit. Even after more than 900 years, Krak continues to guard its secrets in silence, secrets we might not yet be ready to fully comprehend. What do you think could secret tunnels or forgotten preservation methods truly lie within Krak? Share your theories in the comments below. Hidden deep within the white-clouded Andes Mountains, where only resilient feet and unwavering determination can reach, lies an Inca city cloaked by time, Choquequirao. Its name in ancient Quechua can be translated as Cradle of Gold, a name both romantic and mysterious. Yet what truly draws archaeologists, explorers, and curious souls to Choquequirao isn't its name, but rather what it refuses to reveal. What was the true purpose behind its existence? What do you think Choquequirao was really built for? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We're curious to hear your theory. Unlike its famous sibling, Machu Picchu, Choquequirao doesn't welcome thousands of visitors a day, nor is it accessible by train or bus. To set foot here, one must endure a mountain trek lasting from 2 to 4 days, crossing steep slopes, rivers, and dense forests. Yet it's precisely this inaccessibility that has protected Choquequirao from the encroachment of modernity. It remains untouched, ancient, and frozen in time, as though centuries have simply passed it by. Though discovered in the 19th century, only about 30 to 40% of Choquequirao has been excavated to this day. The majority remains buried beneath thick jungle-tangled vines and rugged stone. Yet even the small portion uncovered has astonished archaeologists. Colossal stone terraces, clinging to the mountainside, vast ceremonial plazas, a sophisticated network of water channels winding through the site, and especially seamless stone walls fitted without any mortar, showcasing classic Inca engineering. Most intriguing of all are the white stone carvings of llamas, rarely seen in other Inca ruins. These details feel like fragments of a much larger picture, one we still cannot fully see. Choquequirao is not just an ancient structure nestled in the Andes, it is a true enigma that no one has fully deciphered. To this day, the real purpose of this city remains a subject of intense debate among archaeologists. One theory after another emerges, each offering a different perspective on the role and significance of Choquequirao within the Inca Empire. Some suggest it was built as a final refuge for Inca nobility after the fall of Cusco to Spanish conquistadors. In this desperate resistance, Choquequirao became a spiritual stronghold, remote, sacred, and isolated enough to sustain a secret political center. Some scholars even believe that the last Inca emperor, Tupac Amaru, once lived in hiding here during his final years. Others take a different approach, viewing Choquequirao as a high-level ceremonial and religious center deliberately constructed between two sacred peaks, a symbolic bridge between the sun, the moon, and the spiritual world. Many of its structures align with solar lighting patterns or lunar cycles, leading some researchers to believe it hosted major rituals reserved for the Inca elite. An equally fascinating theory proposes that Choquequirao served as an ancient astronomical observatory designed to track celestial movements from moon phases to seasonal changes, all crucial elements in an agrarian civilization like the Inca. The site's complex terraces and water channels may have functioned as a kind of solar calendar, using sunlight and shadow to measure time. Whether seen as a refuge, a ceremonial center, or an astronomical observatory, scholars seem to agree on one thing: no single theory fully explains Choquequirao. The diversity in its architecture symbols and spatial layout suggests that it may have served multiple functions as a defensive fortress, a sacred site for mysterious rituals, and a discreet administrative hub reserved for the Inca elite. In essence, Choquequirao appears to be a spiritual city, designed not just for living, but to express power, faith, and a deep connection to the divine world. One of the most peculiar things about Choquequirao is that there are no known Spanish records mentioning it, despite the fact that many other Inca cities were documented in detail. This absence is unlikely to be mere coincidence. Many researchers believe the Inca intentionally concealed Choquequirao, transforming it into a sacred place, one that was not meant to be touched. Its treacherous location, difficult access routes, and complete isolation may have been part of a deliberate invisibility strategy. The fact that it was never plundered or destroyed by the Spanish may be the strongest evidence of how successful that strategy truly was. Some researchers have raised an important question. Could Choquequirao have been a twin city to Machu Picchu? Both are located along sacred Inca pathways connecting various settlements, and they share numerous similarities in architecture, spatial layout, and religious symbolism. It's entirely possible that these two cities once functioned as dual hubs within a broader political religious system, each playing a distinct role in the power structure of the Inca Empire. If this theory holds true, then Choquequirao is not merely a forgotten city, it is the missing piece that could help us fully understand the organizational model of this ancient civilization. One of the most unique features of Choquequirao is the dense presence of white stone carvings of llamas found along its terraces and stone walls, a rarity in traditional Inca architecture. In Inca life, llamas were essential animals closely associated with transport, agriculture, and even ritual sacrifices. However, their prominent and repeated depiction here suggests they carried a symbolic meaning far beyond practical function. Many researchers believe llamas may have been viewed as sacred beings, possibly serving as spiritual guides or bridges between humans and the divine within the Inca belief system. All of these mysteries are set within a majestic landscape: mountains stacked upon mountains, mists clinging to ridges, and morning sunbeams casting golden hues on ancient stone. The setting itself enhances the sacredness and enigma of Choquequirao, a city that, even when standing at its heart, refuses to fully disclose its truth. Today, the Peruvian government has proposed building a cable car to bring more visitors closer to Choquequirao. But this has sparked fierce debate. Many fear it would shatter the site's sacred, untouched nature. Perhaps the beauty of Choquequirao lies not only in what it reveals, but in what it still withholds. Choquequirao still stands silent, proud and unyielding, a reminder that some cities were not built to explain, but to make us ask questions. And each step upon its moss-covered stones is a vow that we are edging closer to a lost civilization that never stopped whispering through rock river and sunlight filtered through thick forest. Will we ever understand Choquequirao, or is its very unknowability what ensures its eternal mystery? Amid the crashing waves of the Arabian Sea, where the horizon seems to swallow all traces of humanity, a majestic stone fortress rises as if born from the ocean itself. This is Murud-Janjira, one of the most renowned and mysterious sea forts in the world, located off the coast of Maharashtra, India. For many centuries, this place has stood as a symbol of invincibility, of strategic military might, and above all, as a curtain concealing its true origins. Who was the first to build this fortress? Why would such a fortified complex and uniquely designed structure be erected in the middle of the sea during a time when historical records were scarce? These are the questions that continue to intrigue historians, archaeologists, and lovers of ancient mysteries. Who do you believe first laid the stones of Murud-Janjira, an ancient Hindu kingdom, an African trading guild, or a civilization not yet recorded in history? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Murud-Janjira is a masterpiece of maritime defense, built on an oval-shaped rocky island, about 500 meters off the coast of the village of Murud. Surrounded by salty seawater, the fortress appears to rise from the waves, isolated and virtually impregnable. Stretching over 300 meters in length, with towering stone walls, it features around 19 bastions that still stand today. For centuries, Murud-Janjira remained one of the very few sea forts never to be conquered, despite enduring fierce attacks from the Portuguese, the Dutch, the Marathas, the Mughal Empire, and even the British. The fort's structure reflects an extraordinary level of engineering. For its time, its thick walls were capable of withstanding heavy cannon fire. Massive artillery was strategically positioned. The main gate was hidden from view at sea, and most intriguingly, a secret underwater entrance was built. Yet what truly puzzles researchers is not just its formidable defense, but rather the lingering question: who truly laid the first stones of this magnificent structure? According to most existing historical records, the Murud-Janjira fort was expanded and protected by the Sidi dynasty, a group of people of African origin, mainly from Ethiopia and Somalia, who were brought to India through Arab and Persian trade routes. Under their rule, Murud-Janjira became a maritime power center controlling strategic sea routes and successfully resisting numerous attacks from powerful regional forces. However, various archaeological findings and some ancient records raise a critical question: were the Sidis truly the original builders of this fortress? Certain Mughal-era documents suggest that the Sidis merely took over and reinforced an already existing structure. There is even a theory that they were initially hired as mercenaries to protect the fort on behalf of a local kingdom, and later seized control when that ruling power declined. If that theory is true, then a deeper and more unsettling question emerges: who built the original foundations of Janjira, a massive, fortified structure in the middle of the sea, at a time when construction technology was severely limited? Some researchers believe that the original foundations of the Murud-Janjira fort may have existed prior to the Islamic period, possibly as early as the 11th century or even earlier. Local folklore recounts that the site was once a stopover for an indigenous Hindu tribe, or perhaps maritime traders from Gujarat who built a sturdy refuge in the middle of the sea to shelter from storms, store goods, or perform spiritual rituals honoring sea deities. During a minor excavation in the early 20th century, scholars discovered several granite stone carvings with designs distinctly different from Islamic or African art, featuring coiled snakes, lotus flowers, and repeating circular motifs strongly reminiscent of ancient Hindu or Dravidian artistic traditions. These remnants could hold the key to identifying the fort's original builders. However, due to a lack of funding and academic interest, the findings were soon forgotten and remained neglected for decades. This may be one of the most valuable yet overlooked clues in unraveling the greatest mystery of Murud-Janjira. Hidden deep within the lowest levels of the Murud-Janjira fort areas, believed to have once served as storage chambers or ancient ritual rooms, lie a series of inscribed symbols and carved markings whose origins remain unidentified. These inscriptions do not resemble any known script such as Arabic Farsi or Devanagari. Instead, they exhibit angular spiral shapes, at times resembling primitive pictographs, evoking a sense of ancient spirituality or ceremonial symbolism. This strangeness has led to bold theories suggesting that the fort may contain traces of a long-lost coastal civilization that once inhabited the Konkan shoreline, possibly even linked to other ancient maritime cultures such as the legendary city of Dwaraka, or traders from the Middle East and East Africa, predating the Islamic era. Remarkably, although these symbols have been known for some time, no linguistic study has yet succeeded in deciphering their content or true meaning. This remains one of the many unsolved mysteries that continue to shroud Murud-Janjira in an aura of enigma. Beyond cultural theories, the very architecture of Murud-Janjira raises serious questions about technological advancement far ahead of its time. Some of the foundation stones are so massive in both size and weight that it's hard to believe they were transported and placed using only primitive tools of the past. The outer walls are joined with such precision that no trace of mortar is visible, and they have withstood centuries of sea winds and storms without the use of any modern maintenance materials. Even more astonishing is the presence of a freshwater well inside the fort, functioning normally to this very day despite being completely surrounded by salt water, something that seems nearly impossible from a natural standpoint unless some kind of advanced water filtration or underground system was deliberately engineered. These features have led many experts to wonder, could it be that Murud-Janjira was actually built atop the remnants of an even older structure belonging to a lost civilization that history has yet to uncover? Today, Murud-Janjira is a popular tourist destination, attracting thousands of visitors each year. Yet hidden beneath layers of ancient stone moss and time, the mystery of who first built the fortress remains unsolved. While later generations recognize the cities as its brave defenders, the identity of those who laid its very foundations remains buried beneath the dust of history and politics. Uncovering the true origins of Murud-Janjira is not merely about shedding light on a forgotten past, it also serves as a powerful reminder that the intersection of civilizations often holds extraordinary wonders, and that the greatest secrets may lie right beneath our feet, waiting to be discovered. On the arid land along the southern edge of the Caspian Sea, across the Gorgan Plain in northern Iran, stands a colossal construction that most of the world has never heard of. It is the Great Wall of Gorgan, an ancient defensive wall nearly 200 kilometers long, built with blazing red-fired bricks, crossing rivers, hills, and vast steppes. For centuries, it was buried under the sands of time, forgotten by history. But when modern excavations were launched, archaeologists were stunned. This was not just a military structure, but one of the largest engineering achievements of the ancient world, with a scale and precision that challenges even modern science. Could ancient civilizations have mastered engineering far beyond what we give them credit for? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Unlike many other ancient walls typically built from stone or rammed earth, the Great Wall of Gorgan was constructed almost entirely from fired bricks, a remarkably challenging choice that required advanced techniques and large-scale organization. The deep red bricks discovered along the wall reveal not only a high degree of uniformity in shape, but also the fact that they were fired at extremely high temperatures far beyond what was typical in ancient conditions. Notably, the discovery of hundreds of brick kilns lining the wall indicates that this was not merely a military project, but a massive industrial system that operated continuously for an extended period. The presence of such a vast number of on-site kilns proves that the ancient builders were capable of organizing labor forces, managing fuel supplies, and precisely controlling heat aspects that remain challenging even in modern construction material production today. This is the very point that has baffled modern researchers. How could ancient builders more than 15 centuries ago, possibly during the Sassanid era around the 5th to 6th century CE, have designed and executed a construction that demanded such an enormous volume of materials? Archaeologists have determined the wall's total length to be about 195 kilometers, with an average width between 6 and 10 meters. Along this defensive line stood more than 30 fortresses, spaced out evenly, as if planned using some precise surveying method. One of the most puzzling questions for researchers is this: where did all the materials used to build this wall come from? And how were they produced? Creating millions of high-quality fired bricks would have been no simple task in an ancient context. Fired bricks require good clay, clean water, and a massive amount of fuel for the kilns. Yet the Gorgan region at that time had an arid climate and terrain that was far from ideal for extracting or transporting raw materials on such a large scale. Even with over 200 brick kilns discovered along the wall, archaeologists still cannot fully explain how ancient builders managed to maintain consistently high firing temperatures over long periods, a critical factor in producing uniform, durable bricks. Could they have used a heat control technique that was never recorded in history? One of the most astonishing aspects of the Great Wall of Gorgan is not its length or building materials, but the extraordinary precision in how its fortresses were positioned along the wall. These structures were not only spaced with remarkable uniformity, but also built on specially reinforced foundations designed to resist subsidence caused by uneven terrain. This suggests that the builders possessed strong knowledge of geology and employed construction techniques far ahead of their time. Moreover, archaeological evidence indicates that the entire alignment of the wall may have been based on astronomical principles or natural topography rather than simple visual estimation. This leads to a bold hypothesis: could the Sassanids, or perhaps an even older civilization, have once used a surveying and positioning technology that modern humanity has yet to rediscover? Few would expect that behind a defensive wall lies a massive hydraulic system as complex as any modern civil engineering project. The Great Wall of Gorgan is not only a symbol of military might, but also a remarkable testament to the ancient world's mastery of water management. Archaeologists have uncovered a sophisticated network of canals and dams stretching for dozens of kilometers, channeling water from the Gorgan River to key strategic points. The slopes of these canals were calculated with such precision that the water flow remained stable, clear evidence that the builders had a deep understanding of terrain, water pressure, and gravity. This system was not only vital for daily use and military logistics, but also essential for brick production, which required a steady and abundant water supply. Some sections of the wall even crossed rivers and have remained structurally sound for thousands of years, a stunning demonstration of ancient hydrological and structural engineering at its peak. All of this raises a profound question: who or what civilization truly built the Gorgan Wall? And why is there no surviving ancient document that describes this monumental endeavor? Records from the Sassanid or Parthian periods are completely silent on a project rivaling the world's great wonders in scale. Even Arabic or Roman chronicles scarcely mention it. This lack of written evidence only deepens the mystery. Although the Gorgan Wall is often viewed as a military defense line, an increasing number of scholars believe its purpose may have been far deeper. The massive investment in materials, manpower, and engineering might not have been solely to repel enemies, but also a way for the Sassanid Empire to assert power, order, and organizational supremacy. Some theories suggest the wall served as a sacred boundary marking religious or cultural territory, or even played a role in astronomical rituals. This aligns with many ancient Mesopotamian structures, where architecture was not just functional or defensive, but also reflected the sacred worldview of ancient civilizations. One aspect that has drawn particular attention from modern experts is the astonishing quality of the bricks used to build the Great Wall of Gorgan. These bricks exhibit extremely uniform dimensions, flat surfaces, high load-bearing capacity, and remarkable durability. Over time, something difficult to achieve, even with today's technology, without strict control over the firing process. Even more surprising, recent surveys have uncovered that the foundation beneath sections of the wall was layered with a fine-ground ceramic mixture, acting as both a moisture barrier and structural reinforcement. This is an extremely advanced technique closely resembling modern foundation stabilization methods in civil engineering, and it helped prevent the structure from sinking or deteriorating over millennia. These discoveries have led researchers to admit that ancient builders may have possessed brick firing and ground treatment technologies far beyond what was previously believed possible. The structure's resilience today, despite being abandoned for thousands of years, is testament to its extraordinary quality. Earthquakes, erosion, sandstorms, and extreme weather have failed to destroy most of the surviving wall. This raises another challenging question. How could a civilization with no mechanical machines, no satellite mapping, and no modern cement build such a marvel? These questions remain unanswered. And that's exactly why the Great Wall of Gorgan, though rarely known, is considered one of the most astonishing engineering feats ever created. Unlike the Egyptian pyramids or the Chinese Great Wall, which have been heavily studied and publicized, the Gorgan Wall remains a pristine mystery, a historical chapter still unopened. Perhaps in this very silence lies its allure. A structure stretching nearly 200 kilometers, made of millions of red bricks, with hundreds of kilns, dams, canals, fortresses, and building methods we still can't replicate, standing quietly in the winds of Iran, as if challenging future generations to decode its story. Maybe once we finally understand the building techniques behind the Gorgan Wall, we'll be forced to rewrite a whole chapter in the history of engineering itself.